It's time to turn your great idea into reality with Squarespace. That's right, Squarespace. Squarespace is making it easier than ever to launch your passion project, whatever you're doing. Whether you're showcasing work or selling products, whatever. They've got beautiful templates for you, and you can customize just about anything to easily make a beautiful website all by yourself. Get stuck? They've got award-winning customer support there for you 24/7. Head to squarespace.com/bombcast for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, use the offer code BOMBCAST to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. It's the Giant Bombcast for July. Happy America. Happy America. It's the Giant Bombcast. That's what we say around here every week.
We love America.
Yeah. As tradition goes, we set some shit on fire and shout Happy America. And I'm Jeff Gerstmann. Jeff Bakalar is here. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you for asking. Lovely little weekend there.
Yeah. You made it out alive. You didn't blow off any fingers, or are you a fireworks or are you a fireworker?
Yeah, I am a fireworker.
Twisted fireworker.
Yeah, it's like it's just this sort of rite of passage. They also legalized them in New Jersey, but like not the cool ones, the ones that that are just really sort of party tricks.
Yeah,
it's like
hang out
come
in
on,
the street and
the ones where you could just like hold them in your hand and nothing really happens. And it's
that's
you need to travel to Pennsylvania to get the ones that'll really injure you, which I guess makes sense. But I did not do that
Live
this
free
year.
or die. That's why that's their slogan. Danny O'Dwyer, which did you choose?
I love those Amish fireworks, man. Those people really know how to blow some shit up.
Yeah. You raise a barn and then you raise the barn.
Right. You raise a barn, it's a target, so you can just fire shit at it. It was easier to fire fireworks in Maryland. You could cross a couple of borders to get the good stuff. Mostly because like it's pretty damp. 4th of July, it was like you weren't really going to set something on fire. It was like a muggy, long, swampy summer, so you could just kind of do stuff whenever you want. California, unfortunately, is sort of like a tinterbox state, so it's a little bit more risque to be doing that. But I'm a big fan. I drove around Oakland. I took the sort of part of the roof off my Jeep so that my daughter could experience the horror of the explosions as close as possible, and she dug it. It was good.
Nice. And Jean-Luc is here helping out. Jan is out. Jean-Luc has stepped into the production chair of GameSpot fame. How you doing, sir? How was you made it out alive? Have you set anything on fire over the last 72 hours? Remember that this is being recorded.
Well, no, but that's. I mean,
maybe
yes. It's tough to know whether or not you've actually set things on fire.
I'm sure he has.
There was a period at a barbecue where I looked at my watch and it was 2:00, and then I looked at it again and it was 9:00, and I don't really remember what happened in between that time.
You time traveled. That's
who
cool.
could say what happens? In between those
what
times.
happened in that down when they come to get you? That will be a great defense.
Yeah.
That is like I don't know. Suddenly it was 9 and.
Get your story straight.
Why my hand's covered in stuff?
Where were you between 2 and 9? Fuck if I know. I don't know.
It's food dye. It's not blood. It's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it.
This is my blood. I cut myself.
Is it illegal to be covered in your own blood, or is that okay?
I think it depends on what you're doing with it.
Yeah, and presumably you could be covered in anyone's blood. It's probably not against the law to be covered in anyone's blood. Now, how that happened, I guess, could be the means of why it's illegal or not. But
I bet somewhere it's illegal to be covered in blood. I bet you can't be covered in blood in like a children's school. As opposed to adult
we don't have to go there.
Do you think there's a law on the books about that? I mean, that's a pretty specific blood law. I feel like there's got to be like in a medical situation, they've got things where they're like, hey, don't be flinging blood around. It's a hospital, but it's probably not an illegal law.
Is that blood law?
Blood law. We don't talk about blood law enough. It was written back in the 1500s, and we're still most of modern law is based on blood law. So I'm sure there's some instance, where there might be is there like a medical, like a safety, like hazmat reason why you can't be covered in, like if it's dripping off you. If it's a lot of blood, if you dip your hands in blood.
Like all that stuff where, like, and I don't think people do this enough anymore because, well, I don't think people do this a lot anymore because I feel like there's just been a lot of shit over the last 30, 40 years, but I don't see a lot of people becoming blood brothers these days. Like, hey, let's cut each other's hands and just like rub the blood. Hey, let's do that just for fun on the playground. You ever do that?
If there's one thing we've eliminated from our culture through all this, I hope it's the Blood Brothers pact that have been.
Hey guys, what's going on? You want to maybe just smear some blood around in some open wounds? Like, shit, man.
Honestly, if you were ever down with that, even before a pandemic, the hell's wrong with you? Number one,
I look, peer pressure is a motherfucker. I only did it once, and
you did?
And that made me blood brothers with everyone that person had been blood brothers with before then, and I had to be okay with that.
I need to know what year.
What year was this? This would have been before '88. This would have been okay. This would have been elementary school, so this would have been, let's say, sometime between 85 and 87. Yeah,
the cutoff was way later, so don't worry about it.
There was no like rampant blood diseases in the 80s in America.
Nope.
You were probably totally fine. Yeah,
correct.
Yeah,
facts.
Definitely.
Speaking of blood law, you talked about the fireworks conversation. I did feel a little bad last night. I kind of didn't explode all the fireworks that I had purchased on the 4th proper. So last night I did a little bit of like a belated 4th of July. It's observed. Okay. Yesterday was observed. So I observed the belated 4th of July. And again, they weren't like the loud bangy ones because they're just like New Jersey, budget fireworks. But I did notice the second after we were done, I kind of looked in my backyard, and my neighbor's backyard, all the smoke was still there from my firework display, and it seemed like it just congregated and kind of clouded up there and wasn't dissipating in a way that made me feel good about it. And it was really humid, and you gotta imagine that thickness really prevented smoke from going around in the way you want it to. So I don't know, like, what do you do there? Should I have like knocked on their door and just been like, "Oh, my bad"?
I don't. You just get a fan and try to blow it in a different direction. I don't know what you do, but I do know that you're the sort of person.
Extension cord.
Yeah,
just fan their
backyard. Exactly. Just like get a box fan and just run into their backyard with it and run around like on a long extension cord.
Don't mind me, Peter. It's cool.
You're the sort of person. My wife would love to cut your throat.
And we bring it back to blood law. Wait, why would she like to murder me? It wasn't let me hear.
Because we've got a 2-year-old who because everyone's trying to fucking sleep is the answer to that question.
No, like I said, these are quiet. These are not bangy bang fireworks.
Yeah.
I mean, what are they doing?
We did not have very many around here. Yeah.
They're just sort of like, they're not like bang, 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 bang. They're not like poppers.
Will reverberate off a window in a way that you're not always considering.
Kind of like fluttery.
Yeah, and I have become. I get it now. Like, I was on the other side of this issue for a very long time, and then I am like, let's go blow shit up at 365 days a year. Like, driving around, like flinging things out of cars in neighborhoods that are not even ours. I think the last time I got into some serious fireworks shit, it was me and my roommate at the time at like 1 a.m. in a neighborhood down by the high school, just flinging shit out the window and driving away, and it's just like boom, boom, setting off car alarms. And we're just like, this is fucking badass. Yeah. Now, 2 years into having a baby, and I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's really fucked. It's really fucked up. It's really fucked up.
It's so funny. My dog, you've heard my dog bark sometimes, and that's just because he hears like a delivery person or whatever knock at the door. but my dog could not give less of a shit about the stereotypical dog problems, like horrific thunder, fireworks, like he will stone cold stare into a firework and not give a shit. He's just like, whatever. But the second you say something like, someone's here, and he goes nutso. I just thought that was like a funny visual. Just, my dog just not give a flying fuck about any loud bang whatsoever.
Seen some shit in his previous life. He's just this is nothing.
He's from Florida, so like,
oh, okay.
Who knows? He's seen some shit. Yeah, he's seen some shit. Yeah.
Jean-Luc, you just got a cat. How did the holiday go? When we had cats, it was a nightmare. For the fireworks did not go down well.
They're pretty chill, actually. They would just mostly stare out the window. I mean, she's an old cat. I think she's like 11 or 12.
Okay.
We just adopted her, and she's lived in Emeryville, and you live in Emeryville. People are popping off fireworks literally every day. So I think she just
among other things
is used to it, among other things. Yeah, she's fine. Not a big deal for us, thankfully.
Nice.
Although we're figuring her out, her sleep schedule, because she loves to just wake me up at like 4 a.m. every day now, which is really cool. I'm super stoked about that. I guess it's preparing me for if I ever have a kid, I'll get used to it.
Yeah, they crawled up on your bed.
I've been awake at 4 a.m.
Oh yeah,
most days in the last 7.
Yeah, so I'm like saying it. I'm like,
survive big falls. It's the same thing for sure.
Yeah. You just pick her up,
shedding,
and throw her out. I don't do it, but.
Yeah, one of our cats went missing yesterday. He was just like, I was like, where the fuck's he gone? And he was just hiding one of them didn't care. He was just like, fireworks, I don't care. The other guy just like found a hole behind a heater and just stayed there for like 12 hours. So, yeah, he's all right. It's a cat.
Sometimes,
it's a cat. He used to live in the wild where things were trying to eat him. He can deal with fireworks. He's all right.
Sure.
Yeah, they're scary, but like you're not going to try to. I mean, maybe you will. I don't know. Maybe you try to eat the cat. Cat doesn't know that.
Needs
always got to show respect.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Let's talk about some video games. How about it?
Let's do it.
Do it.
This is
Hold on.
Okay.
Comes out of nowhere.
Right.
Hey,
comes out of nowhere. He doesn't let you know.
That's right.
All right.
I got it.
The biggest game in the world, Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. I was going to talk about this last week, but there were so many games that I had to delay this a week. I finished the content end of that game, I think, and the structure of that game is a disaster right now. There's the treadmill, the quest, the line of quests, and all that stuff is really broken up. It has a lot of things along the way where it'll be like you'll finish a quest and it'll be like, cool, if you want to take on the next quest, you need to be power level 840. And it's like that's like a Destiny style number of and it's like go grind. But then it's like leveling up doesn't actually get you any higher on that. There are buildings around the world that you have to go to, and then when you complete a task there, you will get a skill point to spend on your skill tree. But then the rest of it is like, well, I've got to just feed guns to my gun. I've got to limit break my gun so that I can feed more guns to my gun. I've got to turn my gun into a multi-weapon by feeding it a different type of weapon so it can do weapons from like attacks from both classes. I need to just keep feeding guns to my gun and armors to my armor to level it all up, and then eventually you get there. But like, I finished the story. It says to be continued. It's like it's an episode, like it makes sense now why this was when they talked about this. They were like, hey, instead of doing episode 6 for PSO2, we just decided to do this instead. And it's a full rework of the gameplay mechanics and all this other stuff. But also, it's about the length of a PSO episode where you're like, oh, you can knock this out in almost no time at all. And then you're kind of out of content. And on top of that, now I'm at a point where I finished the story content and I finished it around power level 1100. And to do the kind of end game sort of stuff, you need to be around 1184. And that's just a hellish, annoying grind of like, I've got to go to these areas and just keep killing things. Because, like when I level up, it goes up a little bit. But really, it's I need to go get items and money and resources so that I can feed them to my guns or hopefully a better gun drops and I can start feeding them to that gun instead, and all that sort of stuff. And it's frustrating, but it's like I'm kind of viewing it as like, well, they're kind of getting started with a whole new framework, and I guess it makes sense why it would be a little content light, but it's a little content light. But that said, by getting through that content in the time frame I did, I got a pair of Saturn earrings, which I think would go nice with my character having a Saturn for a head. So
Say Saturn earrings?
And I'm not sure, because the Saturn is very big and it covers my character's ears. So I don't know. I need to use the salon pass and go in and edit my character and do all this stuff, and then maybe I can do that. And now it's back to fashion. It's like Fashion Star Online. Like that's the real star of the show, is you going out and buying wedding outfits and all this other stuff that they sell. And
what is the in-game stuff like, or the end-game stuff that you haven't reached yet? Like, is there much there even once you got to 1184?
So there are areas that are like considered, here's where you go to fight enemies. There's like 3 or 4 of them in the game, and you unlock a higher tier of that area. So it's like it'll be harder versions of the creatures with like, hey, there's a weak point you need to hit to knock a shield off before you can attack them and crap like that. So there's that, and then there are urgent quests which come upon a set schedule of like, hey, there's some shit going down. You need to go take care of it, and I can't join that because I don't have a high enough power level. So disgustingly, I'm still looking at it going, well, I've got to get to 1184 so I can go do that shit. And yeah, so I'm probably going to still play that, even though I'm done with that. No one's ever truly
like you love
not done with you.
You're not selling me on it.
I do not love it. It's really, I'm up and down on it because they reworked so many things from base level PSO2, which I thought was pretty awesome. And the changes they made to it, I'm a little lukewarm on, because it's like they took out like the cool timing combat of the previous games, where if you were like timing your button press as well, you would just fire a little bit faster, and it just got you a little bit more engaged in it. And now it's just like, I'm just gonna hold down the fire button, which is like revolutionary, which is a dumb thing to say, but holding down the fire button and just being able to fucking shoot is like crazy, considering what that game has been since the year 2000 or something. And yeah, so like that stuff's just a little weird. I like the movement because you can double jump and glide and you have wall kicks and stuff, and that stuff is fun to do. But it just feels like a zero-sum thing of like, there's some things that are a little worse and some things that are a little better, and it's a solid enough framework, I guess, that I want to see what sort of stuff they add, because over the course of PSO2's decade of life or whatever it's on now, like they put a lot of weird shit in that game. So if you view this as like, hey, it's only got 1 episode's worth of content in it, and you can still go back and play all the old stuff with your same character with slightly different gear, it's a mess. There's still a huge chunk of video game there for a free-to-play thing, but
and there's more coming, presumably. Like they're gonna keep adding chapters,
said to be continued, and it seems like it is. It seems like that game has been quite popular, so I assume that they will continue building onto it. Either that, or they're just going to shut it down because it failed or something. But I don't think that's the case. So, actually, probably the biggest.
Later in the year.
Yeah. I mean, I can't stop now. Why would I? After
more quick looks.
Yeah. Yes. Another 5-hour stream of just the end game stuff. Hey, Scarlet Nexus. We talk. As anyone, Scarlet Nexus seems like it could be really cool. This is a Bandai Namco character action game. It is anime out the ass.
Yeah, that's what pushed me away. I was like, will I give this a go? And I looked at a couple of videos and went, nah, I gotta know my limits.
I feel like I've heard a lot of mixed takes on this. I feel like I've heard, well, this is very bad. And then I've heard more tempered sort of like, yeah, maybe this is okay.
Yeah, so I've put a few hours into it, and I really like it. It's interesting. So there are 2 characters to play as. I'm playing as the guy, who is a melee focused character, and the lady is more ranged, but as I'm told, is not like super long range, so it might not be that different. But so Scarlet Nexus, it's like it's got all that like young kid high school anime relationship stuff that you're looking for. It's got that stuff where you're like, like you're leveling up a bond and being able, and then your attacks are better because you spent time with this girl instead of this girl. Like it's like that kind of like, I want to imbue my attacks with fire, and so I'm going to hang out with this lady more.
Fire lady.
Yeah. And also you have telekinetic powers. So it is like a character action game in the sense of like it's a Jason game in the modern parlance of our times. It has a launcher. You are doing combos. You are you are balancing a light attack and a heavy attack with your sword. You're unlocking additional things on a skill tree there to like, you can double jump or you can air dash. You can do like different things like that. But also at any point you can pull down the right trigger, and like if there's a car or just some rubble in the background, you will levitate it up and slam it into the enemy you're locked onto. And so it becomes this mix of like, okay, my main attack is good for just kind of staggering an enemy. Then I use the telekinesis to launch something into them. That drains a meter, but my heavy attack gives me meter back. And so I can kind of combo those things together in a way that feels like weirdly, like pretty satisfying. Like you have to level up the skill tree quite a bit to really fully link all those attacks together in as fluid a way as you want. But it's pretty neat. Like I've found it to be pretty fun, and the story so far of like this weird, it's just a child military fucking, but everyone's got weird powers, and you are fighting others, which is a really ugly concept that my understanding is that the game does try to deal with later on. I'm not positive how that goes because I haven't played enough, but it's like, yeah, some of that stuff is a little funky at the start. And they are like creepy fucking enemies. It's like, here's a vase with ladies' legs creeping up on you, and just like real funky designs that are just real nightmarish in that kind of Shin Megami Tensei sort of way.
Yeah, that's the thing that jumped me from the gameplay videos is that the enemy design looks completely awesome, like bizarre and awesome, which is kind of hard to do. I feel like in 2021 we've seen a lot of takes, but it looks really sharp.
Yeah, and it's so the story has been interesting enough so far, and I think the for me maybe the initial downside was that it's a lot of static images and a lot of like visual, like motion comic style cutscenes, right? Instead of like fully rendered. But actually, the more I play of it, and they use that to effect where like the motion, you will pop out of that motion comic and you realize like, oh, that thing was rendered in real time the entire time because now I'm fighting again. Which is like a weird choice, but is actually kind of neat in some sense because you're just like breaking out of it into a boss fight or whatever. And it uses oh god, what is the name? Like you are spending brain points to level up on the skill tree, and there's just a lot of like brain punk and there's just a they really
story of my life.
Yeah, they've got some concepts and some names in there that really worked pretty well for me. But yeah, it was a game I wasn't expecting to go like, hey man, this is going to be some anime ass character action game, that's probably going to be pretty half-assed, but like it grabbed me pretty well, like a lot better than I thought it would. So yeah, I'm going to try to put more time into that. Sounds like just seeing people talk about it online, seems like maybe the catch is that there's some pretty crazy difficulty spikes, some boss fights that are just like a little out of character for the difficulty of the rest of the game. Right. But that each character is basically like 20-ish hours of gameplay. So
can you do me a favor and sort of just be like, if you liked blank, you'll like Scarlet Nexus?
I think if you like a Devil May Cry-ish sort of action game, like that type of, when we say character action, we mean stylish hard action or stylish crazy action, if you will.
Okay.
And you like the kind of the high schoolish interplay of a Persona. Okay. I think that is kind of what I would say. I can't necessarily say, I haven't finished it, but I'm not going to say, hey, it's amazing. But like, I think that's kind of the rough take on it, I guess I would say.
Okay.
The throwing rubble of a control.
Yes, the throwing rubble of a control or a psyops mixed with that sort of stuff. But
what were you playing on? Because it's split
PC.
gen as well, right? It's on everything. Oh, you're playing PC.
I think it's on everything. But yeah, I've been playing on a PC. Runs really well there, for me anyway. And yeah, it seems kind of cool. That's where I'm at on it. It seems kind of cool. A lot cooler than I thought it would be.
Yep. Young hard action. I'm looking forward to it.
Yes,
What?
young hard action. 20 hours all video.
What I heard.
Page.
It's a DVD behind the counter at the convenience store next to the trucker stuff. You know what I mean?
Next to the trucker stuff. What the hell is the trucker stuff?
The Bible's on
What the hell is the trucker stuff?
Wait, what is trucker stuff?
Do you want to stay up? And also, do you want to stay up?
Oh, the trucker stuff. Never mind.
Do you want some asthma medication to open your nasal passages a little bit to make it so you can drive this truck all night long? And then your scalp gets all tingly, I'm told.
Yeah, trucker stuff.
Do they sell mini thins anymore? Is that they assume at some point they like everyone mini thins. There was something that was actually ostensibly being sold for like, hey, it's going to open your nasal passages literally, but also it was like pseudoephedrine back when that was still something you could get your hands on.
Just got to eat 20.
And so when you were in a band and you had to drive across California to make it to a show in San Francisco the next night, maybe the person driving would take a bunch of mini thins.
Oh, I didn't realize.
And I would sit in the passenger seat and go like, "Oh shit, this is not safe." But we got there.
Oh no.
Anyway,
they sold a lot of that weird stuff across the street in our office, like just a bunch of generic kind of like translucent gel pills in not super descriptive packaging. We're sort of like this'll do a lot of things, and maybe a lot of things you don't want it to do as well. Kind of a catch-all, like pick me up, but also dick pills. So I get it.
Yeah. No, if you want the straight dope on real dick pills, stay tuned. We've got an offer the real shit, not this weird behind the counter trucker garbage, not your street overlord level shit. This is some straight up business. Cruelty Squad. Danny, you tried some Cruelty Squad out.
Man, that
Jeff
game is hard.
Grubb came to the show last week and talked up Cruelty Squad, which it's hard. I think there's a right way to play it, right? It is actually an immersive sim, which is a pretty crazy concept when you really start off. You're like, oh, this is going to be some nonsense joke game, and you're like, oh wait, there's kind of 9 different ways to do this. But yeah, I died probably 5 or 6 times on that first level before realizing like, I'm going to try and go a different way, or I'm just going to hang back and shoot all these people before they can see me and take it really slow.
Yeah, it's a thinking person's. It looks like it's probably something you should run through real fast, just because everything is so frenetic about it, like an in your face. But I think it was the you kind of hit the nail on the head where you said it's like an immersive sim in disguise. The player models look so Deus Ex-y to me. I think that was, and then when I noticed it was like, oh, there's a door around the side that there's some icon to unlock, where it's like, oh no, you actually have to like consider what you're doing here to play it. Yeah, I'm into it, but it was just like it was, as you can imagine, when a game that looks that way, it's not a rough first impression, but just like it's like a weird first impression. It's
unsettling. I feel like that's every minute I've spent with that game, I have felt weak, like bad, but like I really like that game, but also it's just like, ugh. Like there's just, it's so much.
There's something about that game that reminds me of like the plot to something like a Stay Tuned or something, where like the game was developed by Satan himself and somehow sent it to Earth to like recruit people, like his minions,
like the Last Starfighter. Exactly. Yeah,
like some sort of like loyal, constituency that's like, oh, part of like Satan's royal order, whatever it is, and the vessel that bridges the gap between hell and earth is Cruelty Squad.
Yeah.
Does that check out?
I mean, yeah, sort of. You know, you can buy upgrades that make it so you can basically like jetpack up, but the writing for it is that just like detritus is launching out of holes in your feet, and it's just like every piece of text is so good and grim, and the whole focus of the story is that you are out there to liquidate CEOs and just straight up murder them, you know, and there are multiple ways to get there depending on which of these upgrades you get, and then the whole thing looks like a fucking GeoCities page that is trying to kill you. And
that's my point. There is also menu, like a garbage pail kids like worthy art going on in a lot of those upgrade things. Like there's bunch of chef's kisses all around.
The menu is like one of the menu does make me physically ill in a way that like obviously that's what they're going for, but like even like I've played some weird games in the past, but like even going in sort of seeing what this was, just being in that world, and like I almost wanted to complete every level so I could just get out of the level, but then I'm like, oh, I'm back in the menu, shit, I want to get out of this menu so I can get back into the next level. And that I just want to be like rid of the place that I'm in. That's what's like carrying me forward.
There's a gunk that gets on you when you play that game, and in a way that like I feel like other games that are trying to be like, oh, weird, or like this doesn't feel like some sick joke. Like I think there are aspects of it that are really funny, and I love the writing and just the look of it and stuff, but like it is very well considered for a game that you could take as like some ironic joke or whatever. Like I feel like a lot of that game is very well considered and very well thought out, and very deliberate. Like it feels like the minds behind this game, it feels like they achieved a goal here. It feels like, and I don't know that, I don't know anything about them, but it's just, yeah, exactly. Like it's shocking in a way, and it's got me thinking about it, where like I want to go back and experiment with different upgrades, because obviously there are like different ways to get into some of these areas depending on if you've got the ability to jetpack up, or you've got, you know, like a higher jump, or different type of, you know, there are going to be stealth options and stuff like that. If you die a bunch of times, the border around the screen will change color and give you weird bonuses that you wouldn't have otherwise, and that which leads to you being able to eat human body parts to regain health and stuff like that. And like it's just, there's a depth to it that you don't expect. Again, because I think it is so easy to write off as some kind of like, oh, you made your weird joke, I get it, Xavier renegade angel looking ass. Like no, it's like there's a lot to it. I like the soundtrack, and the whole thing makes me feel queasy, and the whole thing makes me feel bad in a way that I really appreciate. If that makes sense. It reminds
me of like the only equivalent I was thinking of was, it's like Gaspar Noé's Enter the Void, which is like it's just like the whole movie it feels like a bad night out. Like like the game itself feels like I'm having fun, but like I'm gonna need to like sleep in tomorrow once this is over.
You went some places. Yeah.
What's cool about the art style as well is that it is so out there and so like decoupled from reality, that I wonder if that's what kind of helped them make some of these gameplay decisions. Like, you can, it's they don't have to like ground it in reality, or do a lot of work to have it make sense with the rest of everything else. I wonder if that would help them just be a bit more fast and loose with the like focus on the gameplay itself. Not that I'm sure the graphics had their own sort of worked. It's not like Soda Drinker Pro or something. It kind of has that lo-fi energy to it, like GeoCities, like you said, but like it is also doing something weirdly unique in its art style. It's just weird.
I appreciate it, and I'm taking my time with it. I'm probably like 5 or 6 levels in, I think now. It's like one of those late night things, like before bed. I'm like, I'm gonna go in and shoot some more people. And
it's a good nightcap.
Yeah, a little nightcap.
I don't know if you guys have a game of the year category, if you're doing any new ones this year, but I was thinking about this game and thinking like, oh, will this be something that comes up? And I thought, if you had a category that was just called most, I feel like this would be in there.
Right?
Yeah. Kind of a catch-all, but that works. Yeah,
it's a lot.
Yeah. It's definitely most. It's also it's icky. Most ickiest game of the year. But yeah, I really do love that about it. Let's see. Also, quickly, I played some Powerwash Simulator finally, and I've been meaning to for a bit, and I just wanted to bounce this off of y'all if you have played it. It seems like a game that was designed, like, generally speaking, it seems like a game that some people play to relax, and they find the process of just like, I'm just blasting this dirt off, man. I'm just having a good time doing it. But I have been clenched jaw, fucking like locked shoulders playing this thing, and I don't know why, but it's like I'm just like spraying down this fucking patio, and then by the end of it I'm like, man, everything on me hurts. Like I don't know why I'm so tense. I don't know what the fuck is happening. What the fuck is happening?
I've stayed away from it because it immediately my OCD gets like it like hits that part of my brain. So I'm like, I'm not playing it. I don't need to do it. I know that thing that happens in games, and it, you know, wakes up a part of my brain that I've done a lot of therapy to make very quiet. So that's the reason so I don't know, maybe that has something to do with it.
I just think like the act of power washing is not as cathartic and therapeutic as like maybe people make it out to be. And that's the joke of this game, because power washing is neither fun nor like relaxing. I mean, like I've done it. It's not great. You know,
but aren't you
just
blasting the shit out of shit? Isn't that fun? Doesn't that?
But I think I understand where maybe like if you went to a place that was horrifically gunky, like that could be the thing, but most people are just like doing their dumb patio or something.
Right.
And that doesn't seem, you know, like, I don't know. Maybe this is just not filling the void it intends to fill. I don't know.
I guess. I don't know. It just seemed like, because like those houses are just disgusting. Like you get to, you know, like I got past the dirt bike and unlocked like the bungalow, and it's just like, here's the outside of this house that is just like fucking filthy, and I'm like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm gonna trash this thing.
You also, I'm gonna like break stuff. You know, the speed at which the water's coming out is so powerful that like sometimes you can like chip and break stuff, and you're just like, oh fuck, now I gotta fix that. It's just so dumb.
That's the thing, is like this thing has you like blasting at windows in a house, and I'm just like, man, no way. If this thing was a true power washer, no, it did not, but it feels like it should have.
You ever see?
Is there any
videos?
risk reward then? Is that like, do you run out of water, or is like
there? No, there's a cleaning material you can use to clean more effectively, and that costs money. So there's a bit of like, you want to clean it fast, so then you buy some of this shit. But I'm like, no, I'm just here to blast stuff. So no, why would I ever buy the cleaning material? I'm just here to blast stuff, so that I can save up money to get the next power washer that, you know, raises the stats naturally. Not like these performance enhancing soaps. And
there are videos. Have you seen the videos where the strength of the stream? Oh, you guys are gonna fucking call me an idiot and an asshole, but at the same time, but like concentrated streams that are so powerful that they're like cutting metal, or like something insane. Yeah. Like
you're insane. An idiot and an asshole.
I knew it. But no, like that shit scares the shit out of me. I don't like. You've seen, I know,
like every time you turn the top on, you worry that this is the time that it's going to come out at like 40,000
I'm not worried that
I accidentally pushed a little too up far. Like,
I'm not worried that I've somehow unlocked a pressure setting on my power washer.
At any moment, your shower could just
whoever fucking, where I will just cut a tree in half with this thing. No. It's not a fucking lightsaber, but there's just these wild videos of like, but it's not done like, it's not some prick who's like, I hacked my power washer and I could cut a car in half. It's not like that. It's like in some sort of really controlled environment where they'll slide like straight up steel through it and the water just like dices it in half.
I watched a video last week of some kids in some SoCal beach where the water had like collected on the not ocean side of the beach. Like there was a river that had like dumped, and then they cut a channel from the river to the ocean, shit. Like maybe like 2 inches wide. They just like, damn, and apparently it's illegal to do this. They cut it, and like 20 minutes later, it's like a fucking torrent of a river. It's like 40 feet wide. They're surfing on it. Like it's cut the beach in half. It was the coolest thing.
That's some like SimCity matriculating spline shit right there.
Right.
Yeah.
It was not super illegal apparently, but it was fun.
Yeah.
Looked cool.
Yeah.
People who were stuck on one side of the beach probably had trouble getting back to their cars. Maybe, I don't know.
Damn.
Yeah, you just gotta ford the road. Get over
It's the
there.
opposite of a dam.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like Power Wash Simulator is very stressful for me, but at the same time, I want to unlock the next Power Washer. So I don't know.
There you go.
I don't know what to do. I might just download Cheat Engine and unlock the best Power Washer, and then fucking see some serious shit, man.
Blow those houses away.
Right. Fuck you, house. Just yeah. It also got me
Rocket
thinking,
jump.
like, man, I should get a Power Washer, and then I'm like, oh wait, there's no water here. I can't do that. What the fuck?
Yeah.
They would come. I feel like if I had a power washer here and I was just out front power washing something, just the cops would show up and just be like, "Hey," and lock me the fuck up.
Gavin Newsom coming
yeah.
out of that helicopter, just
Right?
sucking
Yeah.
at you.
You'd be like,
I mean,
you
what's the
interrupted
move,
my
right?
lunch.
So like I realize there's a horrific drought upon us. So is the
Yeah.
move just like get rid of your grass? Like just put rocks and shit there? Like I
Yeah.
feel like that's the move.
Fake grass.
Right?
I have not
Yeah,
watered
AstroTurf or something.
this lawn out here. I have not watered it in about 7 or 8 years now. And it's barely a lawn now.
Is it just dirt and like brown stuff?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I got a big
Damn.
tree out front and stuff like that. That's killing everything anyway too. So, but it's
oh, that tree's gonna suck up whatever moisture.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
The tree's
And
like,
so, like
"Give me
other
that."
trees around it have died as a result of just the drought and all
fuck.
this other stuff. And yeah, yeah. So,
Crazy.
but yeah, yes, it's a lot of people getting different materials. My mom got it's a rubber like ground up tires instead of like
Yeah.
wood bark.
On brand.
And, yeah, very. And that looks pretty nice. And yeah, so
they
I don't know. Like
sprinkle that shit like on football fields and like playground surfaces.
right.
like-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it would be cool to get that playground surface that they've got now that is like just a little springy. Have you been to like a
Yeah.
maybe constructed in the last like 5 years where you step on it and you're like, it's not a
Good
trampoline,
bounce.
but you're like, it's got a bounce to it.
Yeah.
Like, what if you just did your entire
Swan
front.
dive off the slide and be
Yeah.
fine now. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
In Maryland, they used to do the spray your grass thing was pretty popular. People just spray painted their grass green, which I always thought was fucking insane. But
What?
Wow.
yeah, they just have these companies that
That's
come out and
dumb.
just spray the grass. I saw them doing it a couple of times. You're like, yeah, cool. I guess you just, I mean, it's not paint. They're not like spraying paint on the grass.
Oh
but
yeah. So yeah,
but
it's just some sort of like natural dye, I imagine. They're not
Sticks.
just spray
It's whatever they use to
painting
make
fucking-
shamrock shakes, I think. They just get a vat of that and spray it.
Leprechaun blood, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, whatever they're using to make the river green in Chicago.
Chicago.
Oh shit.
Um,
They just don't clean it that week. That's all.
Right, yeah.
Just turn off the filter.
Danny, you've been fooling around with this Terra Nil demo.
Yeah. This I guess I thought it got announced for the first time at E3 by Devolver. This is made by Free Lives, who are the crowd who made Broforce and Genital Jousting. So
mhm.
What?
you know, keep mixing it up. They're kind of like I interviewed a couple of those dudes a few years back. They're kind of like a indie collective in I think it's Cape Town, not Joburg, I think, in South Africa. And they, you know, sort of have people come and go and they work on projects together and on their own. It's kind of like has that type of vibe to it. So I'm not sure exactly who the people are working on this, if they are the same people. It's probably like a mixture and all that. But it's basically like an isometric like strategy game where you are it's kind of like a reverse city builder where there is a sort of you know, a planet or wherever you are, presumably a new planet, a new land, where you're basically, you know, trying to add nature to it. So you have wind farms and like things that will repopulate rivers and things that will spread grass. And the objective of the game is to basically sort of cover as much of the land as possible. And then once you've done that, there's like a second tier where, now you have to add bees to make flowers appear, but bees have certain things where they can only go certain places. And then one of the neat things you have to do is actually some of the stuff you need like burnt forests to work. So you have to do controlled burns by burning. The first time I did it, I burnt my entire planet, like just like gone. I was like, shit, okay, I guess I have to put like rivers in between these or something like that. So you can carve out rivers. So but it, like, you don't have that much control over a lot of this stuff. Like, your control is basically limited to the area where you have planted certain things. So like a wind farm will have a certain radius, and then you build a power station there, and then that has a certain radius. So you really have to be quite tactical. So like I said, the game isn't out yet, but there is a demo on Steam, which is what I've been playing. I think I might have been on itch prior to that. And yeah, it's like every time you play it, you start from the start again, and it's kind of like a tutorial that keeps going. So yeah, I've really liked it. I think it'll be interesting to see how they turn this into a sort of full-blown game. But I've played through the demo maybe like 3 times because I keep going like, oh, I want to go back and be in that world again. That's like a pleasant experience, starting off with essentially a scorched earth, and then by the end it's like it's clever. Like, the music sort of comes up, and then you'll start to see birds, for instance, flying after a while once you've sort of done enough, and it's neat. It's it looks really good as well. I really think people should check it out. If they see a screenshot and they're like, oh, that looks neat, then it's a game they'll really like, I think. Yeah, it looks beautiful. It reminds me a lot of like Roller Coaster Tycoon, that kind of era of games, where like that isometric with like highly detailed models. Like it, I totally, you're right. Yeah, it's like that sort of, each grid looks like it's been sort of drawn. Like it's that type of isometric where it's like very grid based, and it kind of needs to be, because so much of the like area of effect that's done is based on that grid. Like, it's not circular. Like, for instance, like, one of the strategies is when you're putting down I forget what they're called, like the fertilizers, whatever, the ones that like will spread grass. When you're putting one of those down, you can right click to like change the 2 of the 4 sides of the square it shoots out from. And it'll even, actually, what I think is cool, it'll actually give you a number when you're doing it that will tell you how many squares you're going to fertilize. It'll sort of, so you can move it one over. So instead of having to like, I don't know, like analyze exactly where you're putting it, it'll go from like 84 squares to like 89 squares. You're like, oh, okay, I'll put it there, So yeah, but you're right. It's very much that sort of style of isometric. What's the other game it kind of reminded me a bit of is Into the Breach, that kind of style almost. Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, this looks awesome. The trailer they put out at E3. Part of me wants to play the demo. Part of me wants to just not touch it until it's done and just play it for reals. But yeah, I don't know. You've also been fooling around with Sky, which has finally hit Sky Children of the Light. That's finally hit other platforms after a good long run on Apple devices, I believe.
Yeah, I think it was 2019. This is the that game company, Genova Chan, sort of. It looks a little bit like Journey, but is a very different beast. Yeah, it's really hard to explain, like a lot of their games, I guess. It's out on Switch now. I think it is essentially the same version that's on the phones, but it has a 60 FPS version now on the Switch, which does run pretty nice. It's a game where you are playing like a small Journey-like creature, like a person who is able to fly, and you're basically exploring these various worlds in a I don't want to keep mentioning Journey, but in a very sort of, there was a progenitor race and you were here to sort of unlock them again. You are going to these, I think there's 5 or 6 of these different towers that you have to like travel to, and then unlock spirits that kind of show you how things were in the past. So there's a lot of like flying around. It's not particularly difficult. It's more of a sort of experiential type thing, but they've really leaned into the social aspect of it in a way that obviously Journey had the thing where you might run across another player if you're playing online, right, and then you could sort of like chirp at each other. So the chirping's in this as well, and also some like emotes and stuff like that. They have microtransactions, but it's it's free to play, by the way. You can just download this on Switch. It's free. But I think you might need Nintendo Online though, perhaps, at least to do the online part of it.
Sure. Yeah.
But the microtransactions, I'm pretty sure they're all cosmetic. From what I looked, it was just like doing up your character and stuff. But Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out how the social stuff works. Basically, you run into other players. They sort of help you sometimes. Like if there's a door to open or a bunch of candles to light, they can help you do that and get around the stuff faster. But there's like different levels to how much interaction you have with them. Like you can sort of like acknowledge them, and then you can, I think, invite them into your world, and then you can even like name them at a certain point. And they sort of fade from a ghostly version to like a version that is physical like yours during that transition. But it's one of those games where, as the gameplay itself is pretty simplistic, but understanding what the game is doing and the sort of gameplay it's trying to present is actually the fun of the game. It's like learning what the hell is going on. And I'm still kind of mid through that.
Nice.
Cool.
That sounds cool. That looked nice. I don't think I've seen it since it came to phones, but I didn't really spend a ton of time with it. So yeah, that's cool. Is that just Switch, do you know, or did that come to other consoles?
I actually don't know. It's there hasn't been many like much reporting around it. Actually, I was kind of looking to see what other people were thinking about it. And
looks like PC and Mac.
Okay.
From the looks of things, but I don't know if those are actually out or not. Yeah,
and both of those are free. You know what I mean? Like that's a free to play game, and Terra is a demo. So you know, if it's slow pickings at the moment, both of those are definitely worth checking out.
Yeah. Okay. Looks like not PC and Mac currently.
Oh,
so maybe it'll still end up there at some point, but I don't know. It looks like it's iOS, Android, and Switch. 2019.
Mobile.
God, yeah, that's been yes. Portable platforms with OLED screens. That's where you can play Sky. Why don't we take a break? We'll come back. We'll talk about some of these hot OLED screens. Wow, websites, you know? .com, .org, .zone, .pl. Wait, there's the top level domains are endless. Any of those spark any ideas? Spark any ideas for you to turn your dreams into reality? Do they? Do you want to make it real? Do you want to make it real? It's so easy to make it real. Because now there's Squarespace. Squarespace makes it easier than ever to launch your passion project. That's right. Whatever you're trying to do, whether you're trying to start a new business, trying to be creepy, whatever you showcase your work, publish content, sell stuff, whatever you're trying to do, Squarespace is the tool for you. You can execute easily because they've got beautiful templates that have been created by world-class designers. You can customize all of it just a few clicks. You don't need to know all kinds of crazy web stuff to make it your own. You can easily make a beautiful website all by yourself. And you can sell stuff and look at analytics. If the stuff ain't selling, then look at the analytics. Find ways to make it sell better, to grow your site in real time. And it's all optimized for mobile, so it works on phones. You don't need to worry about it. They'll even make buying domains simple. So if you're trying to look for that hot, custom, little out-of-the-way domain for you to plop your plop flag on the internet to say, I am here and I am ready to make it happen, they'll help you there too. It's empowering, just like Squarespace is empowering millions of people in all walks of life, designers, lawyers, artists, all sorts of stuff. Head over to squarespace.com/bombcast for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use the offer code BOMBCAST to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. That's squarespace.com/bombcast. And the offer code is BOMBCAST. Cereal, it's good. I like it when it's crunchy and crispy. I like it when it starts to get a little soggy in most cases. It's just good. It's cereal. That's what it's there for, to be good in the morning or really whenever. I was going to say any time of day, but I can't think. When was the last time you had cereal for lunch? I can't think of that. But late night, dinner time? I've been there. Breakfast, first thing, roll out of bed? Absolutely. They call it breakfast cereal for a reason. But, you can break the rules. And breaking the rules has never been easier than it is right now because of Magic Spoon. That's right, Magic Spoon. Regular breakfast cereal, it's full of stuff. You gonna eat a whole box of regular ass off the shelf breakfast cereal? You gonna do that? And then what? All your teeth are gonna fall out of your head from all the sugar, and you're gonna, what are you, carbo loading? What are you doing? Hey, you can cut down on all that stuff because Magic Spoon is here for you to offer a healthier alternative to the standard breakfast cereal. How healthy? What are we talking about here? Let's get to some numbers. Let's get some stats, some facts. 0 grams of sugar, 13 or 14 grams of protein, and only 4 net grams of carbs in each serving. It's only 140 calories per serving, and it's keto-friendly, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, low-carb, and GMO-free. They got flavors. You know, everyone's, you know, you want to, it's not like a one-size-fits-all. You got to have your own flavor. You got to try a variety of flavors. You got to mix it up. You got to live life on the edge. That's what Magic Spoon is here to help you do, because this variety pack has 4 flavors: cocoa, fruity, frosted, and peanut butter. So you can get out there in a variety of ways. They have even more flavors outside of the variety pack. The offers, there is depth to the Magic Spoon bench, is what we're saying here. They're gonna feel the whole they're gonna go all the way this year. And you can too. Go to magicspoon.com/bomb to grab a variety pack and try it today. And be sure to use the promo code BOMB at checkout to save $5 off your order. Magic Spoon is so confident in their product, it's backed up with a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you don't like it, if you're not happy, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember, get your next delicious bowl of guilt-free cereal at magicspoon.com/bomb and use the code BOMB to save $5 off. Wow, a saving. Okay, it's time to talk about the news. And what a news it's been just this morning. Yeah, and top story at this hour, Nintendo announces new Nintendo Switch world exclusive. So, damn.
Tell us all about it.
Okay.
What'd you do? What'd you make?
What did you do? What did you do, Nintendo? What did you do indeed? They announced the Nintendo Switch, and then in parentheses, OLED model this morning.
Aha.
And
now I get
this
it.
is a $349 device that will be out November 8th alongside Metroid Dread.
October.
October, yes, $350. Most of the early reporting about what this device was has held up. For example, it will have a new kickstand. Jeff Backelar's feedback finally heeded. You did it. You did it. You did it, baby. How's it feel?
You know,
woo,
this is just
right?
the thing that's been thought, you know, you think certain things in your past you can put to bed, move on with your life.
Yeah.
Right? Think like, oh, they'll never make a point to highlight that dumbass thing again, right? Sure enough, got my own July 4th birthday present, huh? It's called digging up that old shit that was never even a thing I did.
It wasn't even something you did. Yes, it was like it was some other video that other people
in the pre-show. Fucking Danny was like, "Yeah, that was all you, right? Didn't you say what you said? Say what you said. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Say what you said."
I just wanted to. That's the lie that was spread, and it felt true. It felt true.
Is that what you said? Is that what you said? Because I feel like what you said was
time since all that happened. It was like all I remember is Jeff Backelar hates the kickstand on that thing. And then but also is biased against it because he pushed down on it too hard in a video with his own hand, definitely his hand, absolutely his hand. That's how I remember all that going down, is that Sony and Microsoft gave you money and then you broke the stand on camera and said, "Look at this flimsy piece of garbage." I went through something similar where we dropped the Nintendo Switch that we got pre-release, and the tabs on the Joy-Cons bust out And so when they latch in and you have to push the button to release them, the tabs that do that are not the strongest plastic tabs in the world.
Oh.
And so both of them actually, on that Switch that we had, it was me that fucking dropped it on the cement floor at the fucking office because I was running out of the podcast room with it after licking a cartridge or whatever the fuck happened. And so those tabs busted off, a single drop. Nothing, and that made it so they didn't latch on anymore. You could put them all on and they would work, but you could just slide them right off. And I reported that and said, like, in context, it said, like, yeah, I fucking dropped it on a cement floor. I'm a dumbass. And here's what happened. And look at these tabs. And people are like, well, you're just trying to make it look bad, you. And I'm like, oh, go fuck yourselves. Like,
did $M give you that money?
Exactly. Yes.
Yes. What'd you do with all that $M bucks? Dude.
Spent all my N Meseta on feeding guns to guns. Anyway, so we can put all that behind us now because they've got a new kickstand. Unfortunately, the same Joy-Cons will still work, so I assume that's still a problem. What else?
That Joy-Con stuff's maybe the most disappointing thing about it for me, because I was like, you know what? Even if it doesn't have the power and, like, you know, whatever, I'm like, if the Joy-Cons were better, if they just gave me something new that didn't make my hand cramp up. And I don't even have, like, I feel like I have normal, like, average human size hands. I should be able to use it and feel comfortable. And after like 20 minutes, I'm like, I'm gonna get like carpal tunnel. I'm gonna get like all the hand things you can get. I can feel them happening to me. And so I was like, oh, just please give me, like, just refresh the Joy-Cons.
Yeah. That's what I don't understand that. Like, there's a lot I don't understand, but like, this seemed like a perfect opportunity to address the thing that is actually broken, right? Like the
lack of an
Ethernet
Ethernet
does not
port.
work.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like, I wasn't losing any sleep over that, but okay, sure, like, fine. You want to add that in? Fine. I also don't understand what everyone's all fucking up in arms about. Like, guess what? You don't have to buy a new thing. How about that? Nintendo just saved you $300. You don't have to buy anything. You don't need this thing. What about that?
What about that? So yes, I agree. I think the Joy-Cons could use some updating. I think there's probably a way to do that and still have it be compatible. I would love to just see them replace the Joy-Cons with something that was just a bit easier to hold, I don't know, that just felt better in the hand. Because I think you're right. Like that idea of like playing it undocked for long periods of time. It just, I don't know. It like over time, there's a hand fatigue that I get on that thing that I don't get on any other controller. But then at the same time, I think the Pro controller is garbage, and I think sliding the Joy-Cons into the little dock, I think that sucks too. So I don't use it for Switch anymore because I don't really use the Switch all that often. But I bought one of these 8-bit dough.
Those are legit.
SF30 Pros, and this is actually, I bought this when Mario Maker came out because that was when I realized, like, oh, this D-pad is garbage, and that was pretty good for that. But now I use that with my Mister more than anything else. Okay, let's get through the rest of this. New kickstand that covers the entire base of the thing. Congratulations, Jeff Bakalar. It has an Ethernet port built into the dock. It has a bigger OLED screen. It has 64 gigabytes of internal storage, which is still like a weirdly small amount, but it's twice what they had before. And better speakers. And so a lot of that is the stuff from the early reporting. You know, Bloomberg has been reporting about an updated Switch model for a long time. But if you remember correctly, there was one piece of that puzzle that we have not mentioned, and that's the part where it was going to run at 4K and be a more powerful device in some ways. That is not the case. The Verge double checked. Like, nothing of Nintendo's video implied that there was a power bump here. Their spec sheet was like, yeah, this runs at 1080p when it's docked, just like a Switch does. And the Verge reached out and said, like, yo, really? And here's what they have from their story. Nintendo was confirmed to The Verge that there are no major internal changes to the CPU or memory. Nintendo Switch OLED model does not have a new CPU or more RAM from previous Nintendo Switch models, says a Nintendo spokesperson. So I'm trying to think, like, the example I was thinking of when all this stuff hit this morning was the Xbox One S, which was a situation where they're like, hey, it's a new Xbox One, and it'll do a few things, minor things, And also, you might get a slightly better frame rate out of it because it's technically slightly more powerful. Not so much that we're advertising it, but since you asked, yes, it actually, like some of those games trying to hit dynamic resolutions or frame rates, like you might just see slightly higher overall frame rates here, and maybe wonder if like there would be some kind of like shadow power bump here. But this quote to The Verge makes it seem like even that is not the case. Exactly, I'm mad too, Danny.
Don't beat up your house over it, Danny. I mean,
I'm sure this keyboard is fine.
I replaced mine. I'm gonna take mine and go beat it with a bat later.
Can't endorse that behavior.
Yeah, it's so they're gonna put out another revision of the Switch that has an OLED screen, and so that'll look nice. That's that's the same screen most modern phones have been coming with for a good long time.
How big's the screen on the current Switch?
Oh, what is it? It's like 6.2, and this is going to be 7. Is that what it is?
That's not nothing. I mean, there is a...
And the device is the same size, so it's all just bezel reduction, basically.
Right. Which is good. Like, the Switch does have a sizable bezel. I noticed that right away. Mm-hmm. I remember that event. When we were in New York, I was like, oh, this is a pretty big bezel.
It's a really small kickstand for how big the bezel is. Wouldn't you agree?
I mean, that's not where my head was going, but now that you mention it, yeah, that kickstand, it's not the best. I just, I never really reported on it, and I have regrets that I never actually took the time to report on that specific detail.
Yeah,
of the Nintendo Switch.
So I think this has left everyone, and on some level you got a feel for Nintendo. Maybe you don't, but like Nintendo just wanted to make their Switch and just put out an OLED model, and it'll have a cleaner screen and all this other stuff. But man, there's been months and months of people going like, it's a 4K Switch and it's gonna get announced tomorrow. And so of course this announcement is being met with people going like, what the fuck is this?
They're like, we didn't ask for this. You guys just did you created the story. We're just trying to put out a slightly better thing. Sue us, That's why we didn't announce it at E3, because God knows what would have happened then. The world.
I think it looks nice. There's a white model here that they've been showing off in the art. Like the dock looks like rounded, and I don't know if it's. The dock looks, or the inside of the dock, I should say, looks like is maybe a little bit more protective. I remember some people ending up with scratched screens on the launch docks.
Make that like a little furry entrance there, right?
Like a little. It looks like it does look like a dark furry entrance. Now that you mention it.
I'm sorry about that.
And
just
I'm a fan.
The screen. Yeah.
Yes. Velvety. It's basically the dock is like it's like a pot of macaroni, I'm told. All right. So what the fuck happened here? This is interesting because, like there was a lot of talk obviously about the 4K Switch, and a lot of these reports were, it wasn't just like some dude on the internet going, yo man, I heard a 4K Switch coming soon. This started with like Bloomberg. This started with like reports out of Japan. This started with like stuff that seemed like relatively well sourced. And so I have to think that somewhere on their roadmap is still some kind of actual upgraded Switch, the same way we got with the 3DS and all that other stuff in a 2022, 2023, wherever it makes sense for them from a component level of like, hey, we can actually get chips now. Maybe that's the problem. They couldn't get chips in time?
Yeah, I saw some people speculating that like maybe the plan was to have it be the bigger thing, and like Nintendo's like, all right, we got the screen, we got the bigger chassis, like we just got to get those chips, and they just waited, and then they were like, you know what, screw it, like we'll put it out. We have these screens, they're sitting dust. We need to ship these, and then maybe in a year or so, they like once they actually get the chips, they'll finally just like, all right, we'll put them in, and then that's the new Switch Pro. An extra $50 or whatever.
Yeah, I could see that, but at the same time, I guess like the thing where a lot of this started. This happens to me. You ever have conversations that are cloudy at the time and you don't realize quite why, and then the announcement happens after the fact? You're like, oh, okay, right,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
this was kind of one of those. I feel like the original Switch was one of those for me too. But it was like this feeling of like, you've got a lot of this information out there, but something doesn't quite add up about it. I've felt weird about this Switch Pro stuff for a while, because it was a case of like, man, if this is something that they're bringing out later this year, there would be documentation out to third parties. Like, everyone would be working on games for it. Third parties are eventually going to leak it. There would be like even more detail out there about it than there is now. If third parties had all this stuff in hand and dev kits and they were working on all this stuff. And so it was just this situation of like, all right, I feel like there's just part of the timeline of new hardware is just missing here, and something isn't quite right. And so that seems like where it is. And
the thing that sticks out to me is that, like, did Nintendo, like 2 years ago when they were planning their next revision, really want the next thing to be called OLED edition? Like, it's so it does scream like, something's missing that turned, it's hard, right? Because we're reading the tea leaves and we're sort of like back translating this, but like, it's not like OLED is like the hotness right now. You know what I mean? Like a couple of years back,
shut your mouth. It is. The hell do
like
you know?
The Vita was like a pretty good console. So it's it does feel like I wonder if the chip shortage was one thing. The problem with the chip shortage thing is that, like, there seems to be no end in sight on the chip shortage thing at the moment.
Right.
Like, it has a long shadow. So maybe they don't want to release something that has, even if they have access to some of that stuff, that like they're going to be running into production problems. I mean, given it is Nintendo, that is sort of par for the course for them, but maybe they don't want to be stuck in a protracted situation where they devalued the sort of regular Switch because they have a much better version out, and then they can't get it in shops, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's the point, right? Like, that is, I mean, I agree. Like, they would not have, put that original audience in that situation. But the point of all this stuff, right, is to like expand that base even further and even, beyond where it is now. Even though I feel like there are so many of them in the wild, like that is the sort of point to it all. But it's interesting. Like, they did re-up that original. Didn't they like quietly roll out like a better battery switch before the light came out? Right?
Yeah, like the
maybe
the Animal Crossing one, or there was like that era. They definitely updated the regular Switch.
Yeah, I mean, to your point of like, was OLED Switch in the timeline? Like, yeah, probably not. But I guess they sort of, like you said, made the best out of what they had.
I wonder if that's just another component situation where, like phones have OLED screens. It's like a done deal. So at some point, are just the production lines making way more OLED screens than non-OLED screens, that they're just like, well, we kind of have to switch over now because it's just going to start getting more expensive to source these older screens or whatever. That's just like supply chain stuff that I'm no fucking expert on. But you do end up in that sort of situation eventually. Yeah, I don't know. I think, there are a billion different ways to discuss this, but for me, it all comes back to like, I feel like the reporting out of Bloomberg like looked pretty solid, and felt pretty sound at the time, and so it's interesting to look at it now and go like, okay, like there was at one point a thing where like, okay, this doesn't seem like it is exactly happening the way that this is going down. Or like I said, sometimes you have conversations and then things snap into focus once the announcement hits. You're like, oh, okay, this is what that meant. Okay.
Especially with the amount of times where it seemed like they were just on the cusp of announcing it. Like, if they kept putting it off, like, and then this is the one they come out with, and it does feel like a half step. Like, you can see how that might match up.
Yeah, it would be weird to announce this during E3 alongside that stuff, especially with some of those rumors swirling around, because I feel like that would cast a negative shadow over Metroid Dread and some of the other software announcements. So I wonder if they were just like cognizant of just like, here's what's going on the internet right now. We have to deal with this bullshit that is not of our own making, and as such, we have to just push this out of the window, and we're going to put it out alongside Metroid, but we're not going to say that here. So yeah, it's I don't know. You could pick that apart a bunch of different ways. Like, we will never fully know until someone on the inside writes a book in 20 years or something. But It's interesting. People don't seem thrilled about it. This seems like something that makes sense for them to do in a very Nintendo-like way of just like, hey, this is the change we're making to it this year. Some people will upgrade. They will take those consoles that they already own, give it to somebody else, buy some other games. They will sell them. There'll be, more systems in the channel and out there making their way around secondary markets and stuff like that. Those people will ostensibly buy games, or people will just buy a new one and hack the old one to do dirty shit with. Who knows? I don't know where that stuff's at these days.
Where's that dirty shit these days?
And dirty shit's been around for a while. I think some of the people responsible for some of that dirty shit that were trying to sell it, I think they got popped. And then there was another news story I didn't take where some guy who was running a ROM site that agreed to pay Nintendo $50 a month out of like millions of dollars. Like apparently he did not even make his first $50 payment. So
Come and get it.
$50 a month. Wow. All right.
Yeah. It's like,
That's
sorry
the
for
hell of a
letting people download a Kickle Cubicle. Here's $50 a month for the rest of my life. I don't know.
That is a wild settlement. Oh my God. Right?
Yeah, totally. So I don't know. Like we'll see. Obviously, this is their plan for this year, and I think you're going to see a lot of people start talking or continue to talk. In some cases, I think some people have definitely been on this train for a while. But the idea that a new device in the sense of like a new Nintendo 3DS maybe is a year off or more. I'm so done with it. the rise and fall of the Nintendo Switch Pro 2021 news. It's exhausting. Let's see here. What else is going on? PlayStation. You heard of them. They make the PlayStation. So this is, they do both do this now. PlayStation does not necessarily like to refer to themselves as Sony in much the same way that the Xbox division likes to talk about Phil Spencer as head of Xbox, not Microsoft Xbox, not, hey, well, I work for Microsoft, as people say. I work for Xbox, which is weird because Xbox is a thing and a state of mind, I guess, now that we're in the cloud. So maybe that makes sense. But it just... Anyway, PlayStation has announced there's going to be a State of Play on Thursday. That's their recurring short video series that I feel like State of Play has often left people wanting more but not in the positive way that can sometimes mean. I feel like
same problem with the directs, isn't it? Where it's like, if you don't know this is why they come out and say what's on them now, because you know when they don't, people are like, oh my god, they're going to announce X, Y, and Z, and it's. But at the same time, expectation management.
There's been. And maybe I'm crazy, but I seem to remember, at least on the direct side of things, that there would always be, not always, but there had oftentimes been like a thing they didn't tip their hand about. And you're like, oh, okay, now I can't trust them when they say what's going to be on the show, because who the hell knows? Anyway, this one is going to have a 9-minute look at Deathloop. I'm sorry, at Xbox's Deathloop. That's
from
the headliner.
Xbox's
That's
Arcane.
That's the one game they mentioned for this 30-minute show. They said, in addition to this long look at Bethesda's violent adventure, we'll have updates on some exciting indie and third-party titles. The full show clocks in at around 30 minutes, and then had to go on. And like you said, this showcase will not include updates on the next God of War, Horizon Forbidden West, or the next generation of PlayStation VR.
Yeah.
Stay tuned throughout the summer, though, as we'll have more updates soon. So now they've got, by saying stay tuned throughout the summer, the game mess extends yet again, and now people can start speculating about the next PlayStation event.
So that means they're definitely going to talk about those 3 games at another event in the summer. That's what they're saying, right?
Yes, exactly. The next generation of PlayStation VR, we're going to hear about it this summer, for sure. 100%. Confirmed. Boom. Stamp it. God. So yeah, that's happening Thursday. I am at a point with Deathloop where I am sold on the concept, and I would like to play Deathloop, and I don't need to see 9 minutes of Deathloop footage.
100%.
Yep. Yeah, agreed. Especially those games, right, where like so much of the fun is understanding what exactly you're playing.
Right. Yeah.
I bet they would also like that this game was already out by now, because it was supposed to come out. Was it May or April?
Yeah, something like that. It's well,
it looks neat.
A lot of that
looks
going
good.
around.
I also bet that helps them though, because like those arcade games have always like traditionally been so difficult to like get people to play because they've always been they've been doing a bit too much for some people. You know what I mean? Like they're just a little bit more complicated, and immersive sims are just by their nature, require the player to require attention in a way that like trailers are kind of hard to do by. So maybe in a way this helps those folks who are gonna tune into a state of play, but maybe aren't super sold on whatever this game is. Maybe it helps.
Yeah, you're not wrong. There's definitely like. There's always an exposure piece that can, they could always be doing more to expose games to people. They could always, and you also have like, if Deathloop is a big enough game to draw people in, then maybe you've got more people to watch some of the indie and other third-party game coverage that they'll do.
Yeah, those hardcore fans who are going to watch every drop of an arcade game before it comes out.
Because as we all know, PlayStation is a friend to the indie developer. We'll get into that a little later. Doom Eternal, they put out, I messed with this. They put out their update for, I guess, all platforms, and this kind of brought the game natively to current gen consoles, but I screwed around with it on PC to see what the ray tracing looked like, and was like, that's the Doom guy reflecting back at me in that glass. Ooh. Looks pretty good. I mean, that game already looked pretty good. But they've got a change here that they announced on Twitter. They've gone with a dirty kind of off-white background with some kind of noise on the thing to make on the image to make it look a little bit like a piece of paper. They didn't go cyberpunk yellow.
Interesting.
With this, they've struck out in their bold direction here. Anyway, it's a letter from Marty Stratton, who's the executive producer of Doom Eternal, basically saying, hey, we're that invasion mode we talked about where it's like, hey, players are going to invade single player games in a Dark Souls like fashion. That's always how I read it anyway. To fuck with players as they play through the campaign. We're not going to do that anymore. So I guess the exact quote is, we intended to release a free invasion mode update for the game. However, the unforeseen consequences of the pandemic and remote working impacted the progress of development for this edition. Over this time, we've also seen and heard how many of you enjoy the range of gameplay and combat available in the expansions and master levels. These factors in mind, we've decided to redirect our focus from invasion mode to creating a totally new single-player horde mode. We're confident this horde mode will offer you more of the diversity and challenge you're looking for in the game. And there's a refresh of battle mode coming as well, and they'll have more information at QuakeCon in August. This always seemed, when they released Doom Eternal and this invasion mode was not a part of it, my first reaction was, you already missed it, because like
player count.
How many people are going to play that campaign multiple times over and over again? Once the invasion mode stuff happens, like you're going to have more invaders than invadees, because people have finished the campaign and moved on, right? And I don't have the numbers to back that up, so maybe there's some people that are just like grinding it out over and over again, but at some point it's just like, that just seems like it's got to be there day one at launch for people to start playing through the campaign with it already enabled, or you've kind of missed the boat on it. So this seems like a positive. Totally. This seems like a positive thing to me, but
I know there are people in that community who are bummed, obviously, because they're sort of looking forward to it for a long time, but also what they're doing instead, something that's purely single player, like matches what you're saying, right? It's something that's not impingent on there being this connectivity, and it's a new thing, so it's not like it's not something they're adding to the regular campaign either that will mix that up. It's a whole other sort of gameplay mode. So, at least they're doing something. They could have just canceled. They would try to design that as something that would be replayable, I would assume, as well, to kind of keep people coming back. Also, horde modes are a dime a dozen. They've been done to death, and I think that could fit in well with Doom's structure pretty well. At the same time, them just coming out and saying like, we're doing a horde mode. Like, just maybe that game is a horde mode. Those areas are horde modes. People come in, you kill them all. More people come in, and then you kill them, and then you go into the next
entire game is a horde mode. But we'll see. I don't know. The horde mode can mean different things in terms of hey, maybe you're placing down Gears of War style bunkers, or, like shit to take on enemies or protect. Anyway, but we'll find out more at QuakeCon. I don't know, man. I reinstalled it when the RTX stuff hit, and for a hot minute, I was like, I'm gonna give Doom Eternal another shot, and started from the beginning and started playing it again, and got a handful of levels in. It was just like, it's still not doing it for me. It was like, as you go through those first few hours and it starts to layer on the all right, you found the chainsaw. All right, you got the grenade now. All right, you got this. Like, as it starts layering that stuff on, like every single pickup was like slightly less fun I was having with the game, and I was bummed because I thought it would be different this time. I thought maybe there'd be enough distance from it to be like, I'm finally gonna have my moment with Doom Eternal, and I'm gonna see reflections in the movie. Yeah, I just I'm bummed, man. That game seemed so awesome pre-release when they showed that E3 demo and showed that loop of how you used all those different items and stuff. I was like, that's super smart. But in execution, when you're trying to like get through levels and do stuff, it just felt like a few too many systems layered onto a game that at its best, you are just like managing fire and alt fire and like maybe a couple of other systems on top of it like that. Yeah, I don't know. I think that first Doom was a better game.
Yeah, I really liked Eternal. I never complete. I think I maybe got 3/4 of the way through, and I just was exhausted because it kind of has like a difficulty. Like, it's not like the first game where it really like is the challenge is pretty matched with the like how far you're going. There's not too much coming on at the same time, whereas systemically there's so much in that game, and also the bosses, like there's a definite like Dark Souls influence on that game, even outside of this mode, like just in terms of the way bosses, in terms of the way like you are attacking them using specific weapons against specific things. But the game is so frenetic that it's hard to think sometimes because you're being told not to think a lot. You're being told to keep going.
Right.
Yeah.
So it felt like a tough balancing act to do it. It definitely found an audience.
Rip and tear. It's not rip and tear and manage 5 different cooldowns.
Yeah, right.
Like, that's not that I want the game to be stupid. Like, I don't think you need to dumb it down, but yeah, it just gets in the way of itself a little too much for my tastes. Let's see. Dan Hauser of Sam and Dan Hauser fame, but not anymore, has gone off and started a new studio. Seems like some people in the GTA community sniffed this out. He's registered something called Absurd Ventures in Games. Dan Hauser's best known as being one of the co-founders of Rockstar, and he's kind of one of the main writers for, I guess, what we think of as the modern era of GTA. I guess I'm gonna say the modern era of GTA is GTA 3 onward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was gonna say, is that more than one game? But yes.
Maybe 5 is the game that pivots it in a whole new direction here.
Yeah.
So he's got a new studio. Leslie Benzies started one a while ago and already has a game announced, and they're working away on stuff. So it feels like some of that crew that was responsible for a lot of those games, or at least at a high level, have kind of gotten out there to do other stuff. I'm kind of curious to see how that goes. Speaking of GTA,
all that's
exactly. Yeah, like what scale is that game at? Or are these people that have worked on some of the biggest scale games in the world in terms of number of people working on them and all the stuff it's tried to do and all that stuff over the years? Like, I feel like GTA's really pushed those boundaries pretty well. Do you think they want to get right back on that horse and be like, nope, yeah, we're building a massive team, we're doing all this stuff? Or are they like, I want to do something small and personal and maybe or maybe try to work smarter, not harder, or what have you? I don't know what I would do. I feel like that's the thing across the board when it comes to GTA is I don't know what I would do if I was tasked with making the next Grand Theft Auto, except potentially leave the company. But then once you did that, what do you go do instead?
Yeah,
like that's an interesting one as well. So yeah, I'm curious to see. Speaking of GTA, All right. Grand Theft Auto. Let's see here. 2024 or 2025 is the word going around from someone named Tom Henderson, but then that information's been corroborated by Bloomberg and Video Games Chronicle, along with information saying that it will be set in a modern era in Vice City.
Okay. I mean, who knows what'll happen in 5 years? So great. That's great.
Yeah, like none of us are going to be around to see that video game when it ships. It's fine.
Like what? Like it's like, all right. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, right? Exactly. It's just like, I'll be busy that day. Like, I don't know. It's so far in the future. Who the fuck? Like, what
next
are we
year,
doing?
like 20. I'm planning the work no clip stuff for 2023, and it's absurd when the words come out of my mouth. It just feels like nothing time. Yeah, but I believe that. GTA is not going to come out for
that sounds
makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean,
they have to build a whole new
doing
architecture for this thing. Like it's not going to be based. You know, all the tech they've had before it's quite old now. And even Red Dead stuff was like, you know, not exactly spring chicken. So they're going to have to do a lot of stuff on the back end. And yeah, building those worlds takes forever. You know, especially the cities, especially ones in cities like Red Dead. At least you have landscape and stuff, and probably a lot more work happening somewhere else. But you know.
And one of the things attached to this is that they want to be able to have a more dynamic city, presumably, you know, because they would want to do an online mode and be able to change it up. Yeah. Some people are likening this to like Fortnite and how Fortnite sometimes just like this part of the map blows up, or, you know, Apex does some
Put
similar
a Marshmallow
stuff.
concert in Vice City.
There you go. Yeah. Yes. Finally, cash in. It's time for GTA to start making some real money. And yeah, I mean, GTA, like I'm curious to see what shape a GTA even takes at this point, because like the impact that online had on GTA 5 and like how much money that thing makes, like you have to just look at it and go like, well, any game they make is going to be compared to that. Red Dead was like the Red Dead online stuff seems to still be considered something of a disappointment because it didn't update as fast as GTA Online did. It didn't seem to retain players nearly as well as GTA Online did, and you don't hear too much about it. Like they're still doing updates here and there, I guess, but like you hear a lot more about GTA Online updates. They're bringing that to new consoles, I guess, later this year, right? Like they're doing those native versions. So yeah, man, this is. I don't.
You can't step back with those games. You can't ever take a step back with those games, and like I think that's what I think the magic of those games has been, is that like I think they've nailed it every time. Like with 4, coming out of 4, I was like, what did I do for 5? Like, do you like how can you up the ante of this instead of just making it a more high fidelity version of what you've just done? And you know, it wasn't there were certainly parts of that story that maybe weren't great or bits and bobs here, but like I thought GTA 5 was a phenomenal achievement. Like to make a game with 3 protagonists, like still nobody's done that since. That whole character hopping stuff, like I thought it was such a novel, unique way of doing it that nobody expected. But the problem is they need to do it again and again and again. It's like, there's no stepping back. It's not FIFA or Madden. You can't sort of like just sit in your little, you know, make the same game. Everyone's chasing them all the time, which means they need to keep running faster than everyone else. Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like the industry has changed so much. Like everyone, like there are still games chasing them, but now it's like people are chasing the battle royale stuff. People are chasing more competitive, and people are chasing them on the GTA Online front, not necessarily the 3 protagonists and the depth of that story and the quality of that story, or even open world games are kind of a different thing nowadays. So like it's just kind of it feels old in a weird way. Even like thinking about GTA 5, like you're right that like no one has really done that, but also like, you know, no one is thinking about the GTA 5 campaign anymore. They're just thinking like, oh, they're just raking it in on shark cards and all this other stuff. And so yeah, when I think about like what does GTA 6 do, like I care about what they do, what you're talking about. Like, okay, they did 3 protagonists here, and that let them tell 3 very different characters' stories that kind of weaves together a lot of the different threads that have made up GTA up to that point, where you've got your fucking typical gangster, but like a new spin on that with him being, you know, retired or aging and all this other stuff. And then you've got your straight up West Coast shit
and all that other stuff, and then you've got Weird Meth Man, and then they all come together in a variety of ways.
Weird Meth Man was pretty good.
Weird Meth Man was
all right.
At the end of the day, Weird Meth Man was pretty good. He's probably my least favorite of the three, but
when he killed the main character of one of the DLCs for the previous game in the first few minutes, I thought that was one of the funniest.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good.
All right, what about this? What about they do Vice City, but instead of being 3 protagonists, and this sounds like a production nightmare, but what if it's going back in time? It's flipping between old Vice City, contemporary Vice City.
Oh, okay. So you do
I'm
like
not
the
saying there's like
70s
but like, yeah, maybe it's just telling a story that way, kind of like,
right. The time jump thing could be that. Sure, why not? Okay, thanks, Danny.
Because how do you do it? Because how do you go back to Vice City and Disco's dead? We can't do that. We can't. We need to play Toto's Africa when we're, maybe it's a throwback radio station. Is that what it is?
Yeah. There's this throwback station that gives you everything from old Vice City on it, because none of those songs ever actually went away. And like a Florida story these days,
right?
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of dumb directions you could go.
Yeah, you kind of want it to be Florida, if we're being honest.
Like Florida is real life GTA in a lot of ways, as far as I can tell. So if I can play High Lie in GTA 6,
oh yeah, I mean it makes regular Florida look kind of tame. I'm sorry, GTA look kind of tame by comparison. For sure.
Yeah. So why not?
Bath salts mission, your alligator mission.
Mm-hmm.
It's just,
It's just
that's all I know.
President's tacky club mission.
It's just Florida GTA versus Florida. That's been the duality throughout time, one-upping each other over and over forever.
Right.
It sounds like a whole game full of Trevors.
Who could be more fucking brain dead, GTA or fucking Florida? Like, your move, Florida. Right?
Like, oh yeah,
yeah.
Well, it'd be a lot of fun weather effects too, and they could probably do some cool shit with that too. What else? Sony bought Nixie's Software. It's a Dutch team that has primarily been known for PC ports. Like they did the PC version of, was it Deus Ex Human Revolution, I believe, was one of theirs. I want to say they did some of Square's stuff, but I've always thought of them as a studio primarily known for PC ports. But it sounds like that they are maybe being brought in more of a general support level. The quote here from the founder says, "We can't wait to get to work and are so excited to bring our technical and development expertise to an IP powerhouse like PlayStation Studios. We're looking forward to working with some of the most talented teams in the industry to deliver the highest quality gameplay experiences for PlayStation fans." So it almost sounds like there'll be like a tech team that other studios in the PlayStation Studios group can kind of work with to tech up their PlayStation games, if not, if not their PC stuff. I would my first thought was like, here's how we get Bloodborne on PC, is you get Nixies to do it, but that's not the pitch, at least that they're making right now.
It could be part of, Jeff Grubb last week as well was talking about just that general environment of consolidation, buying places up as well. Yes. Herman Hulst, head of PlayStation Studios right now, of course, Dutch guy from Amsterdam, ran Guerrilla Games, probably knows this crew quite well. So maybe it was just one of those where, it makes sense for everyone involved, and also they were in the room. You know what I mean? Like there was a relationship there. So, maybe it just makes sense from that perspective too.
Totally. Yeah. And the Sony news, I guess I got to mention earlier, GamesIndustry.biz broke this down in a decent way this was primarily a Twitter thread that led to a lot of other indie devs kind of piling on Sony here. Co-founder of Neon Doctrine, Ian Garner, posted a long thread and some pie charts and some other stuff, kind of basically going in on Sony's storefront and how they are just not making a lot of money on on he referred to it as Platform X, but was pretty clear that we were talking about PlayStation and PSN here, and talking about their back end and the process for getting games up and how frustrating a lot of all of that can be. And it just led to a lot of different people jumping on it. Ragnar Tornquist jumped in and said, this thread mirrors our experiences exactly. Dragon has been out for over a year on consoles. When was the last time it was discounted or featured in a sale? And it's definitely not for a lack of trying. It's disheartening. So one of the other things is like, hey, yeah, like PlayStation has limited slots for sales, and they determine when games go on sale. You don't, and just a lack of developer control on that front. Jay Tholen, the creator of Hypnospace Outlaw, said, yeah, PlayStation sucks for indie devs. We sold like trash on there compared to the other big consoles.
Nice.
Also, we make more sales on itch alone than we do on PlayStation, I'm pretty sure.
I'm not surprised with Jay's games. They're a bit more,
yeah, I mean, yeah, to be honest, like Hypnospace Outlaw, I think like the itch crowd is probably way more in tune with that game than the general PlayStation audience. So I guess, I see where you're coming from. But also, Hypnospace Outlaw is really good, and more people should fucking see it.
It needs discovery. A game like that needs to be pushed in front of people. Yeah. Discovery is the big problem, or one of the big problems I feel like Sony has right now. I don't know how frequently any of you have spent time looking at the PlayStation 5 storefront stuff.
Yeah. It's
a lot.
It's a horror show.
It's bad.
It's bad.
It's hard to find
terrible
stuff even if you know what you're looking for.
Yeah,
like it's hard to search for stuff.
I feel like the search just doesn't even work half the time. Like, trying to find something specific. Like,
yeah, and there are cases where they're trying to surface games to you based on your play history, and that's not working. Seemingly not working as intended. I don't know. Like, it's hard to imagine that anyone is looking at that. Anyone internally is looking at that storefront and going like, "Yeah, we fucking nailed it." Like, it just looks terrible. Like for me, the big one was when Hitman 3 was coming out. I was trying to buy Hitman 3 the night before it came out, and it was nowhere. It wasn't on, like, I just went to the, like, show me all the PS5 games and sort it by release date, and could not find it in that list at all. I eventually had to manually search for Hitman to find it and buy it. And that's just been a mess. Like, after launch, it was like the same. And granted, it was a launch thing, so maybe it was just growing pains, but it just felt like there were, like, Assassin's Creed was just in that top unit for like 3 months or something. That
also sounds like Ubisoft. They do.
Well, yeah, maybe they bought the slots. I mean, that's not a secret for sure. Is like, there are definitely like store placement for sale on Sony stores. I mean, I think Xbox has just straight up sponsored tiles right on the front page of the dash for that sort of stuff too. So that's not unheard of and not new. But yeah, it's just been a bad experience. Like, I feel like I look at it every time I go to try to find the free games for PlayStation Plus that month, and even that is not as clean as it should be. It's just part of it's another example of the UI and the front end being bad, but then you've got a lot of devs now talking about just how unfriendly it feels for them to be working with Sony on that store stuff, whether it's like, hey, can we get some placement? Hey, is there a roundup we can be a part of? Hey, can we put our game on sale because it's on sale on Steam right now? We would like to match that price on PlayStation platforms, and just getting pushback across the board. And
because they have no control over it, right? As well, looks like, you're supposed to have a partner manager, but then the partner managers are also doled out to people, based on some sort of metric that nobody really knows. So yeah, it just looks like it's badly managed. They have no interest in giving control to indies in that sense to manage it themselves.
I bet that there are people at that partner, at the developer relations level, that would love to be better at that, and that there's some higher up kind of bottleneck here preventing this from happening. I feel like that is oftentimes the story with issues over at PlayStation. Sounds like Games Industry Biz had 2 different stories, one kind of pulling different quotes here. And they've got a stat here: $25,000 is the minimum amount you need to pay Sony to get your game featured on the storefront, which to me sounds cheap compared to some of the prices I've heard going around for store placement. But I'm sure that's not the big front hero image or whatever you want to call it. It's just such a weird turnaround for Sony when you think about like the PS4 and you think about the E3 press conferences of that era when they were putting a lot of indie games out on stage. Yeah, like all that stuff, like, and yeah, so this is actually like hard for me to talk about because this is like the Adam Boyes era of Sony, and like Adam Boyes is one of my best friends. It's like hard to talk about this shit without sounding like, man, when that guy was in there, things were good. But
I mean, that was the play, right? Because that was the opposite of what Microsoft was doing. So like that was the PR play, if not the business play as well, and it did seem like it was both. Yeah. So I hear what you're saying, but also that does marry reality, is that like that seemed to be a big push for them, was winning over a lot of people. So yeah, it's disappointing to hear that really doesn't seem to be the case with at least indie devs. That, you know, maybe their mechanisms are better suited for some of these flush, you know, companies that have money or particular marketing departments that they can liaise with on a day-by-day basis, not an indie dev who emails them once every 6 months, maybe, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
who knows?
You get the impression that Sony is chasing blockbusters, whether it's third party or first party, that like they are pursuing games that move the needle by themselves, you know, just like huge games. That's the stuff that they're looking for. That's the stuff they're trying to invest in, and all that sort of stuff, which is interesting because like I think a lot of that indie strategy, or the pursuit of indie devs on the PS4, I think worked out really well because it took a long time for the ramp up of games to, like, big games to come out on that platform. You know, like the first year plus of that generation was just weird. And so you had a lot of smaller games filling in those gaps and doing really well. And here we are again with the PS5, and I feel like we're kind of back in the same boat. Like there are probably more games. If we lined it up, there are probably a few more games for PS5 than there were for 4, I guess. Like from big studios, big devs, like they were slightly more prepared, but the pandemic obviously impacted it.
Yeah.
So you just look at it and go like, with all of that stuff going on, like this would be a great time to court indie developers and get them on the platform. Instead, you've got these pie charts going around saying that like Nintendo of all people is cleaning up on the indie front and how well they're doing, which I guess makes sense because, you know, it's a handheld. It offers something different that you wouldn't get if you just bought it on PC. So, you know, plenty of reasons to maybe buy it there and buy it on a PC or another console platform and stuff. But it's just when I think about how messed up Nintendo's eShop is, it's always surprising to hear like, we're cleaning up on the eShop. I'm like, what?
Isn't that the funny part, right? Where you're like, because all the things they said about Sony, I would think that was the same thing. eShop's way more cluttered. There's way more like random, you know, mobile games appearing on that thing.
They let the sales stuff go rampant. So like the way to make money on the eShop is to launch at a high price but perpetually be on sale because it shows up in different places that way. And so you've got people gaming it that way. And so
shows you how important the sales stuff is, right? Or at least them having control, because like a lot of these indie studios, like 20 years ago, the PR for these games was also on the console side. But like these days, so much PR about games and marketing is done by small studios and like spread by their own fans. So it probably makes more sense for them to be on sale than have a big bumper on the store, because they're able to get the word out to people who are thinking about it, or a subreddit, you know, blows it up or whatever. And then suddenly you've got another bunch of people playing it. It's crazy how much apparently the control over your price has to do with you know, long tail buying mentality of gamers these days.
Yeah, it's one of those things like, you know, we're in the middle of the Steam summer sale and I just look at the activity feed and just see people on my friends lists picking up so many goddamn games right now. And like games that are like 7 years old and stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, I guess it's like 74 cents. Like, why wouldn't you? And yeah, so obviously that price stuff matters. But yeah, it's I feel like we've been talking around it, or you know, you've had developers kind of talking around this PlayStation stuff for a while now, and this damn broke, and it broke big. And that's it's interesting to see that stuff, because I hadn't. It was more of a feeling. I didn't really. It was like having devs articulate like, no, these are the actual problems. Like, okay, I knew there was something. You could tell there's something going on here. Something's not right. But
so what changes, right? Like, what's going to change now?
That's a good question. You know, because if you ask them, I'm sure Sony would tell you that they love indie devs. There was a while ago that they put Shu Yoshida into an indie focused role, which seemed weird because my understanding was that there was already a whole team focused on that stuff, and so when he got moved out of there, it always seemed more like leadership's moving to where Holst and Jim Ryan are now, and you know, it just seemed like it seemed like more of a power struggle, or maybe not power struggle, but like just seemed like he's maybe being put in this role here, and you're over here now, sort of thing. We're over here doing blockbusters, baby, and that always seemed weird, and I don't really know what the structure of all that stuff is these days, but I don't know what changes. I think they need to redesign the store, because I think the store doesn't serve anyone well. Whether you're AAA, whether you're indie, like that PlayStation storefront is just bad across the board. So I think you probably need to retool that thing in a major way. And the rest of it, I don't know. Like, you know, maybe they've got solid reasons for why they don't want games going on sale all the time. But some of it may very well be that their process and their back end is just too old to handle it, too busted. You know, there could just be tech reasons that they need to address and all that sort of stuff. I don't know.
It's a bit of a tangent, but what did you make of the Ghost of Tsushima pricing stuff? Because that was very weird. So the director's cut version of that game, which is going to have all the updated PS5 stuff, it's like you have to upgrade. I think if you want it on PS4, it's $20. If you want it on the PS5, it's $30. But if you already had the director's cut on PS4, to upgrade to PS5, it's $10. It's
right. Because they want their $70 total, or they want their, you know, because if you bought it on PS4 for $60, well, they're selling the PS5 version for $70. So if they want their Project $10, baby, it's back. So yeah, it's a clunky, weird mess that reminds me of the Tony Hawk upgrade path stuff when it came time to move that over, and they didn't want to just do it for free. I could see not wanting to create the loophole where people can just buy Director's Cut on PS4 and get the PS5 upgrade for free. But the process of like, well, you can buy the Director's Cut DLC, but if you want it, basically it's the whole thing of like, hey, these games are $70 on PS5, so you're going to pay an extra $10 if you're moving in that direction. Whether you're starting there, whether you're moving there, they're going to get an extra $10. And so I guess it's one of those things that like looks complicated, or like it shouldn't be this way. It looks more pedantic
than it kind of is, maybe.
Yeah,
given where we are.
Like I understand from a business perspective why you would do all this stuff, but it just doesn't seem consumer friendly. It just doesn't seem like something that they could probably do better than this. And I think as a platform holder, I guess I would rather see them like be a little bit better about doing stuff for their fans, for their best players. Like, hey, you supported this new IP when it came out on PS4. And so like when we put this stuff out, like, yeah, we're still going to charge $20 for it, but we're not going to throw the extra 10 on there. Like, just let people be happy with a game, you know, like make slightly less money if you can. And maybe like they can't. I don't know.
A week-long window where they can upgrade for free, and then
the free upgrade to PS5 version I think is the right way to do it. And Final Fantasy went through this a little bit, but like that was still a free upgrade. It was just like, well, if you want the new content, you need to buy the new content, and I think that makes total sense. But yeah, you're right. It's a weird situation. I think that stuff just hasn't been figured out yet.
It's also kind of like maybe a temporary thing too, that we just have to get through.
It's a temporary thing that's extending, right? Because more and more stuff is going to come to these old platforms because of supply issues on the hardware, and you know they're going to make decisions like that you know you're going to have to think about that for, hey, we're doing Gran Turismo DLC, and if you want to move from PS4 to PS5, it's an extra 10 spot, you know, whatever that ends up being. You know, like it seems like they want theirs when it comes to that extra $10. So yeah, I don't know.
Just give me the ad-supported version of Ghost of Tsushima, please, and I'll
now you're
I'll
talking.
Move on with my life. Yeah. Those billboards in game.
Obama posters everywhere.
Obama billboards, Best Buy, and I have to go to Best Buy. I bought one of those Ataris.
What?
I bought the Intel. Yeah, yes. The new Atari the new from speaker hats to video game consoles.
Oh, the natural pivot.
The natural pivot. I have to go pick it up because they wouldn't ship it to me. It was only available for in-store pickup, but they didn't have it in stock, so they had to ship it to the store, and now I have to go get it. It seems like a very solid solution for the Atari thing. Anyway, Magic Legends is not coming out. Cryptic Studios has been working on this. Rory played this on UPF a while back. It's the action RPG set in the Magic the Gathering universe. It was it's in like an early access state on, I believe, the Epic Store. And it's supposed to come to consoles and other stuff later this year. It ain't.
Man.
They're like, nah. We're not putting this out anymore. In fact, we're going to shut it down in October before it ever kind of sees real release outside of its beta. According to this Polygon story, there are, quote, no plans to revive the game in the future. The executive producer said that the vision for Magic Legends missed the mark. We've learned several valuable lessons along the way, and we'll use them to improve Cryptic's future development efforts. So it's pretty crazy. Like, I don't know, Roy played this. It looked like functional, but not especially interesting, and all that. But I guess I can't say I saw this coming, that they were gonna just pull the plug on it before it came out. Yeah.
Cryptic have long sort of been in like financial woes. They've had, obviously they had massive success with the City of games. They got acquired then. It was a Perfect World.
Perfect World, yeah.
Right. And then of course, like, you're a big Star Trek Online fan, so you were all
lifetime sub. So that, I mean, I'm part of the problem by giving them one lump sum. I have cost them so many hundreds of dollars over the years.
It's been like over a decade. Since that game came out.
You did this, yeah.
Yeah,
this is basically, like, this is my version of crypto. This is, I get every month, I don't pay for Star Trek Online, but I still get to play it if I choose. And, congratulations to me for the foresight, I say.
So I wonder if this is them, like, just looking at the curb and the beta and being like, we have to shut it down. Like, it's way too risky to even attempt
right.
it.
Or one of the things Rory said when he was playing it was like, boy, it sure seems like Hasbro is in like money making mode with Magic. They're like really turning the crank, and it really felt like they were trying to exploit as much dollars as they could out of this thing, but maybe they hit a wall with it. Wizards also published Dark Alliance. Like, that is one of their games, and that definitely didn't hit. So you wonder, like, are they looking at that and then looking at this and going like, we are on the wrong track and we have got to pull back on this before it destroys us in the interactive space, or in the online video game space? I do not know.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat 11 is done.
Who was the last character?
They're finished. Rambo, I think. Might have been.
Oh yeah, of course.
Probably classic. Rambo.
Yeah. Rambo and RoboCop.
John McClane. John McClane.
Yeah. No John McClane. Sorry, but if I could put my John McClane on the blockchain, then maybe I could bring it from one game to the next in a true multiverse-like fashion. But unfortunately, we're just not there yet.
Has to have rhymed that already, right? John McClane on the blockchain.
Yeah, I believe Lil Uzi Vert did in a mixtape release last year. So yeah, they NetherRealm came out and said like, "Hey, we're focusing on our next. Here's the tweet. NetherRealm is now focusing on its next project, and after more than 2 years of supporting Mortal Kombat 11, DLC for the game, including characters, has come to an end. That doesn't necessarily mean no balance patches if anything egregious gets found, but
they do a Game of the Year edition or a full edition with all the DLC.
They did it already. So yeah, they put out a
all
story mode add-on. Called it was it Aftermath? Called Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate, I believe, was the collection of all of it. And it's a very good game. It's been a long run. I feel like in a normal world, we would have heard about what their next project was by now. They were always on this like every 2 years kind of schedule, every other April. Just didn't materialize, but they're obviously working on something. I have to imagine it's an Injustice game. That seems like the cycle they've been on is to do Mortal Kombat and then do Injustice, and they could definitely do an Injustice 3. I could see that working out just fine. But of course, people like to say, how do you say, fuck around with the fans, and so Ed Boon is occasionally talking about Marvel characters and some of this other stuff, and just like really stirring the pot on a Marvel versus DC thing. It's not so much him stirring the pot, but people want that Marvel versus DC thing to happen real bad. I don't know one way or the other if that is the case, but that would be cool. They should do that. They should have Injustice 3 suddenly be like, all these Marvel characters are here. Weird.
Sure. Spider-Man versus Green Lantern. Here we go.
I can't have Spider-Man. It's Spider-Man exclusive to Sony platforms. Sorry.
Well,
John McClane.
Look, if
John
they put
McClane.
DC and Marvel together,
Yeah, we could probably get. John McClane seems like a Marvel kind of guy to me.
Yeah.
It's so serious.
Yeah. He's so serious. He's hunting the Punisher or something. Give me something.
Okay.
That's a good run. People are of course angry. I look at it as like, hey, they did 2 season passes of characters. That seems like a good long run for that game. But people are like, I can't believe you didn't put my character in the game. So
it's just those people. Like the party's got to stop at some stage. It's 6 in the morning. The sun's coming up.
Yeah.
And
there's always a party somewhere else, but this one's closing.
Yeah.
Doesn't it seem like fighting games also like just naturally don't have the long sort of leash, right? Like
the opposite. Most of them don't, right?
Well,
but you can just keep playing them forever.
No, for sure. But I'm saying like with how long they are supported, right? Like I feel like, is there something? I don't know. Maybe
Smash Brothers, if you consider that a fighting game,
I don't know
which
what
it has fighting game characters in it, but is not anyway. I believe that technically has longer support. Street Fighter V is still kicking around in some form or fashion.
Yeah,
sure. But that seems like more like out of like, well, we haven't come up with anything to replace this yet, and than anything else. So I don't know. 2 years seems like a good solid run for content for damn near any game these days. Tekken went longer, I believe. Tekken still has stuff coming out, I think. And Smash still has its one character left and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, maybe a little bit shorter in terms of years, but in terms of like the amount of content and quality of that content, like I think they're right there. Like they did a story add-on and it was like fun. So I don't know. That's cool. Back to Atari. Yeah. So I think I'm gonna go pick this thing up tomorrow. I gotta go do like a curbside pickup and get this thing. And I'm not even sure what it is, but I figured it's a new device.
What's it called?
Well, I knew that I got to a point. It's called the Atari VCS, and I was like, I'm pretty sure they're not going to send us one of these for review, so I should probably go get one. Because I filled out a form at some point saying, yes, I would like to check this out for review, and at some point, I don't think they're going to come through on that one. So I'm going to go pick one up because I have to know. I feel like every step of the way, this thing seemed like a weird potential joke of a platform. It's a PC. I mean, the thing, it's like a PC. Like at some point, they were just like, it runs Netflix real good. I'm like, okay, well, what are we doing here?
What is this?
Was it $400?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh my shit! What?
Is there
2 controllers of different
it?
types. So they sell different ones. There's like there's the one with wood paneling. There's one that's in more of a Vader, the all black kind of configuration. I don't know. I think I ended up with a wood grain one because I think that's the only one Best Buy is stock. I have no idea what I got. I went to Best Buy and checked some boxes and said, I'll come pick this stupid thing up.
I mean, like, what do you do with it?
It'll play Netflix. It's going to come with some Atari classics in the form of like an Atari flashback sort of thing, but it's like a PC of sorts. It's like a small, inexpensive computer running, I believe, some form of Linux, if I remember right. But yeah.
And does it come with 2 controllers or?
Yes,
or
of different types. So it's one that's like a more modern kind of dual analog stick configuration, and then one that is meant to approximate the original Atari 2600 controller, but apparently it also rotates like a paddle.
Okay.
Oh, like that way?
Sounds like some real nonsense, but like, I don't know, you're going to play Kaboom on it or like this, or I don't know what we're going to do.
You can buy one for $60 on its own if you want, Bacalar.
Yeah.
Shit. Does it have a USB port? Maybe.
Probably does. So alongside this thing's been kicking around for a while. I think they did crowdfunding for it, so I think some people have had it for a bit. And then they're just kind of making their way out to retail over the last couple of weeks, I think. And then meanwhile, Brendan Sinclair over at gamesindustry.biz reports that Atari Gaming is moving away from free-to-play and mobile games. And they're getting out of the casino business, apparently, as well.
What? No way.
No money in casino business.
So we don't know if they've gotten out of the hotel business because there was the Atari Hotel that they were working on.
Right.
And they have not exited the blockchain business. What happened is, what had happened was back in April, they apparently split the company into Atari Gaming and Atari Blockchain. And the guy who was the CEO of all of Atari is now just the CEO of Blockchain. And you've got this recently appointed CEO in the chair, Wade J. Rosen. And he's out there saying that they're going to get away from free-to-play and mobile games and get into premium games for PCs and consoles. Premium games. Games for money, I think is what that means. That's the core of Atari and what binds our history with our future. To that end, we feel that premium gaming is better representative of this type of gaming experience and the Atari DNA.
Amazing.
And so there's a lot of free-to-play games that are going to get probably shut down or sold off here. And Brendan Sinclair has a list of games in here that I didn't even know existed in a free-to-play form, and now I want to know what they are. Roller Coaster Tycoon Stories. I feel like I heard that that existed. Crystal Castles, which is an old trackball game before it was music, and now it's apparently a mobile game somewhere. Castles and Catapults, Ninja Golf, which was the Atari 7800 classic, where it was a side-scrolling game where you hit a golf ball towards a hole and then had to run after it, much like Mario Golf. But then along the way, it was like Kung Fu for the NES, where you had to fight other ninjas as you ran to the hole, and it's nonsense, but also, it is the one good Atari 7800 game. And a new Atari Combat Tank Fury, which I also had never heard of. So good on Atari.
Are we re-entering the world of AAA interpretations of classic Atari games? Look at our AAA Asteroids.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
Pong.
Yeah, because they had that Asteroids in early access. It was like a full-on like fucking mining and survival game. It was like a Minecraft, not like a Minecraft, but it was like you were out there fucking mining shit and landing on planets and doing it. Yeah, it was just like, and they killed it. They eventually just shut it down. It was still in early access, and they were like, "This isn't working." So the goal here is to build a strong pipeline of premium games on all platforms, is how the quote goes, and they're looking to get some of that stuff out during this fiscal year. And here's where it ties in. The new titles are also said to bolster the lineup for the Atari VCS, which is that PC-based system they just put out. So, but they are saying they would support multiple platforms, so it's not like they're just going in on this Atari thing that no one is ever going to buy, except me. So congratulations, me.
Hey, it's only $400. You know?
That's all.
I'm gonna expense it. Don't be fooled here. This is not. This is me filling out some paperwork, man. Though I don't know how expenses are filed around here, so that'll be a learning process.
Just put out a playtest of Yar's Revenge, and you'll be fine. Quick look.
I mean I would do that. I would do a Yar's Revenge quick look right now if you wanted to. Yeah, so I don't know. Like the idea that Atari split into a division focused on video games that gets its away from their blockchain bullshit is at least like mildly like, oh, thank God. Okay, at least someone maybe realized that this needs to be over here away from just like, okay, go run your scam off to the side. We're going to make video games over here. But then I think the Atari Hotel website is still up.
Oh God. That fucking thing.
It's AtariHotels.com.
They did, didn't they?
I believe so. That's probably on the blockchain side of things.
That was your hotel key card. That's how you got in. You had to mine an NFT to open the door to your room.
What is Story World? Okay, they've written lore for the Atari Hotels, apparently. Everyone in Syzygy loves street racing. It all started when the hover cycle was announced. It didn't take long before our streets became a stadium. Suddenly, the floating walkways transformed into tracks, and our neon street lamps became finish lines. My first memory is almost getting run over by Anton Jones while buying an ice cream. I loved it. I mean, it's Anton Blipping Jones.
Blipping?
Blipping. That's their fake future curse word. Okay, cool. That's just part 1 of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. This is a long page of lore for a page about a hotel. And they have worked in, I mean, just right off the bat, they worked in the word Syzygy. Like, they've tried to work in so much different Atari shit in here. But also, they talk about the Tesla Arena in here somewhere. Oh, hang on here. Blip.
Can I stay?
I'm looking for the nightclub. I don't know why I said that. This lobby was clearly not a nightclub. All right. This 24, part 25.
This brand.
This is great.
It's going to survive the apocalypse in the way that like Taco Bell did in Demolition Man. Like, it will somehow just figure out its cockroach future. And this will all that we'll be left with at some point.
The price just keeps getting lower. That's it. It's always going to be available to buy by somebody because its stock is always so diminished.
And
somebody will scoop it up.
There's always going to be some like loosely out of touch business dude who hears Atari is for sale and goes, "Oh yeah, the video game guys. I mean, yeah, we can get them for a song. We'll figure it out. Blockchain something. I don't know. We'll sell fucking speaker hats." Like, it's always that guy is always going to be out there with like too much money and not enough smarts to know like that he's just throwing that money and setting it on fire.
I own Atari, whatever.
Yeah.
What you want to do
Atari.
is you want each level on the hotel to be a different game. So you go to the ET floor and it's just it's like underground, like a trash pile. And you're just all the wallpapers are boxes of ETs that have been buried. It's there's no windows. It's just all you can hear is like the muffle sound.
Yeah. If they could just go pull all the ET cartridges out of there that they did when they excavated and just actually literally make the walls out of that, then that would be something.
Wait, you said there were how many pages? Because now I've scrolled to the bottom of this fucking
There's
thing.
like 24 different chapters of this
38.
story. 38. Okay.
It's a role-playing hotel. You need to read all that before they let you stay.
Yeah, it's just this is the unreleased Sword Quest game. They finally found a way to get that out to the people.
Where's
I
the hotel?
don't know, man. It's somewhere weird. It's like New Mexico or something. It's like it's not. It's nowhere. It's nowhere. The other thing is it does not exist yet, as far as I can tell, and maybe it never will.
The hotel is an NFT.
Right.
It's like Habbo Hotel. It's like it's their new game. It's their new AAA game.
Wait, is it real? Are we
not
sure
currently?
It's real?
They announced this. So they announced this as a real thing. They partnered with an architecture firm. Like they definitely were out there saying, we are going to put a fucking hotel up and then we're going to do more. And then, like there's been a pandemic, there's been all this other stuff. There's a membership page here. Explore new dimensions in the world of Atari hotels. Members receive access to limited edition drops, special room rates, invitations to exclusive events, and double rewards.
Oh, this is the Fire Festival of fucking hotels.
Drops.
I mean, it is just not real.
Drops.
Like they got hot drops. You want a fucking robot helmet that says Atari Hotels on it? Yeah.
7 minutes ago, their Twitter account put up a picture of a lady wearing a hooded sweatshirt that says Atari Hotels on it. And
is this the crop top?
Yeah.
Is this the one that shows a bit of midriff? Because I can see that here on their store.
Yeah. Not quite. No.
It's also cut
available.
high. Yeah.
And then another shirt that says "This is not a toy" on the front of it, and then it says Atari Hotels down the side of the arm.
They did tweet something that says "for the skaters," and there's
what?
Yeah, June 28th for the skaters.
Oh, so this merch is like recent, and some of it is sold out. This is like a recent like merch push from them. You want an Asteroids mouse pad that says Atari Hotels on it?
Nope.
No.
I mean, this goofy shit does kind of belong in like Vegas in a weird way.
Yeah,
like
I mean, Yeah,
Like you could do this well in Vegas, I think, because it would just work there. But
yeah, I think there's probably a way to, like, if you wanted to do a video game themed hotel in Las Vegas, you could totally do that. I mean, they already make a Mr. Do slot machine, so
yeah, exactly. It's
like,
a natural fit.
The work is done. That's the news. Let's stop talking about Atari hotels for at least 5 minutes here before we get back into another 45 minutes of Atari hotels material. No, we'll come back with emails and wrap it up. Stay tuned. Rock hard erections. You heard me. You heard me. Come on. Rock hard erections. Right? That's what it's about, right? This episode is sponsored in part by Bluechew. Bluechew is making waves and bringing more confidence to the bedroom. Let's get into it. Bluechew is a unique online service that delivers the same active ingredients as in Viagra and Cialis, but in a chewable form and at a fraction of the cost. Bluechew's tablets combat all forms of ED. They say ED here, but look, we're talking about erectile dysfunction here. If you have a penis and it is not doing what you want it to do when it is time to do it, if you are, I don't know, people like to get all metaphorical about it. If you're pulling up wet rope and coiling it on the dock when you should be fishing, forget it. If it's not getting erect the way you think it should be, and maybe you need a little extra confidence when it's time to perform, that's why there's Bluechew. That's why this stuff exists. That's why it's there. That's why it's been time tested to figure out a way to get you what you're looking for. Bluechew is an online prescription service. So there's no visits to the doctor's office. You don't have to have weird conversation. You don't have to go into a doctor and be like, my dick doesn't do the thing I'm trying to do with it. There's no waiting line at the pharmacy either. It ships straight to your door. It's in a discreet package, and the process is simple. You sign up at bluechew.com. You consult with one of their licensed medical providers online. That's all online. And once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Online, all of it. From where you might be sitting somewhere right now where you could go through that entire process fast, simply, and easily. Bluechew's licensed medical providers work with you to find the right ingredient and strength for your prescription. And if you don't like swallowing pills, that's fine. There's no problems here. These are chewable. This is chewable. They're made in the USA, they prepare and ship direct, and it's cheaper than a pharmacy. So if you could benefit from extra confidence when it's time to perform. Perform, I mean, with your penis. What are you gonna do with it? That's on you. I was gonna say for sex making, but maybe you're just gonna hang out by yourself and just get some stuff done on your own. Look, I don't know. That's fine. Visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we've got a special deal right here, right now. You can try Bluechew for free when you use the promo code BOMBCAST at checkout. You just pay $5 shipping. That's bluechew.com, promo code BOMBCAST to receive your first month for free. Wow. Bluechew. All right, we're back. And now it is time for the emails. Bombcast@giantbomb.com is the email address. You can send your emails in. And a lot of people have. And a lot of people have had things to say about England, but it's starting to mix up now. Liv from Meath, Ireland. Is Meath a place?
Meath.
Okay. Meath. Says, glad you have Danny spreading the good word to an international audience. Fuck Kilkenny.
I don't know why the Meath person has beef with Kilkenny, but yeah, sure. I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Fuck Kilkenny. Real harsh.
I agree.
I was just saying that the Kilkenny Giant Bomb listener group has had a horrible year with me coming on this podcast. It's just their worst nightmare.
And
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, well, that's how it has to go. That's how it has to go. Let's see. Oscar writes in. We had Jeff Grubb on the show last week to celebrate the launch of his new show, Grub Snacks, available here on GiantBomb.com every Thursday. And he mentioned Mirror's Edge 2, and that led to Oscar to write and say, "You made it sound like EA blames Mirror's Edge 2's failure on the lack of interest in the IP. I'm not a fan personally, but I got the impression that was just we're going to answer a question that was meant for Jeff Grubb, is what I'm saying here. I'm not a fan personally, but I got the impression it was just a bad game. Do you think they're looking for external explanations to avoid any critical analysis of their own decisions? I know both things can be true. There's probably a high signal to noise around Mirror's Edge popularity, and it's probably the same case for Skate 4. But this seems to happen a lot in both games and film, where a bad product is released and its failure is blamed on lack of interest rather than lack of quality. Are these companies just avoiding difficult conversations internally?" Good question. Like, it's definitely a case where like people signaled that they very much wanted a Mirror's Edge sequel, and then they're like, "All right, fine, we'll do it." They did it. It was not super well received. It was not on par with the first game, in my view. I don't think I'm alone in that. And there's probably a lot of blame to go around on that stuff, because part of the reason it probably like one of those things where you got some people that are like, "I told you so, told you we'd do this Mirror's Edge thing and no one would care. That's why we didn't do it before," internally. But yeah, I don't know. That's a big company like EA. There are probably a lot of different viewpoints around those sorts of things. Trying to think if there are any other examples of this sort of thing.
Yeah, especially because with EA, it's easy to put your finger on a game like Mirror's Edge, because it is so outside of the general wheelhouse, especially in the post-Riccatello era. But also, like, we're viewing all of this stuff from the total opposite angle. Like, we're sort of, again, reading the tea leaves and sort of trying to backwards analyze decisions that are made for a litany of different reasons. Mirror's Edge, you got to say, like, they weren't making that game for money. Like, that was part of this will hopefully find an audience. Maybe we can make it for not the most expensive thing in the world, but also this is probably a decent amount, I suspect, to do with their brand image and their, what else they were doing maybe at that time. So I think it had its place, but I would be very reticent to think that Mirror's Edge was a bellwether for the games that EA would want to make going forward. Like, I didn't even at the time get the sense that they were going to make more games like that.
It felt like a lark almost. It felt just like, all right, we're going to give this a shot. I mean, Skate feels the same way to me in some ways, but we don't know anything about the game yet, so it's hard to really say anything one way or the other. But the Mirror's Edge sequel at the time on Mirror's Edge.
Yeah.
On the sequel? The first one, definitely,
So maybe it even makes sense from an internal perspective, just get a bunch of people on a different game for a while, just to creatively give a little valve for people so they're not constantly making Battlefield games or whatever,
Yeah, or maybe it was another excuse for them to mess around with Frostbite engine tech to do some different things that they then rolled back into Battlefield, for all we know. There's, all sorts of reasons why some of those things can still make sense, even if the game itself doesn't always pan out. But yeah, Mirror's Edge 2, I feel like at the time felt like one of those things where like there was fan demand and they were like, all right, because you demanded it, please like us. Right. I don't know if you noticed, but in my head, Mirror's Edge 2 coming out and EA being like voted like the worst company to work for in America or the most hated whatever, like all that stuff feels like it's all in the same era of EA just going like, what the hell, man? Like,
can't catch a break. Yeah.
We're not a bank. So
they're
yeah,
casino because of Ultimate Team,
as it turns out, that's way worse. But yeah, I bet that you'll have people that'll try to like on the heels of something like this. There's probably a bunch of different narratives that form internally, if I had to guess, and they probably eventually just all boil down to the stats and the numbers. I mean, EA didn't get to be the size of EA by not statting the hell out of everything and figuring out all of those numbers and why things happened and sentiment analysis and all this other stuff. So I think they probably eventually got a pretty good handle on why some of that stuff happened. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like to ask your question about a bad product being released and failure being blamed on the lack of interest. I feel like, was Mirror's Edge 2 bad? That's maybe a little extreme. Bad?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I found it to be not engaging at all.
I did not especially like it, but I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But it wasn't
seem
even like a Dead Space 3 situation where like they so clearly were trying to like push the like co-op and turn it into like something different, and like that's why no one bought it. It was like, in theory, they're like, oh, it's a little more open-ended, and like all that stuff made sense. It's just like the execution of it wasn't ideal. So
yeah. And the Dead Space thing is like, at some point, people greenlighting those projects and stuff, they have to look at it and go like, all right, well, you sold this amount of money and that's fine, or you sold this number of copies, but like really, we need to be here. You need to be thinking about a game that gets us to this number. What is that game? And they were like, co-op, maybe. Like that's why you started seeing some of that stuff get shoehorned in, because they thought that would be a way to make that happen. So it's why a lot of those old IPs at EA don't ever see the light of day again, is because a lot of EA's projects, like they want to be $100 million. So I don't know what the number is, but like they want to make a buttload of money on everything they put out, especially if they're going to invest a ton of money into it. They want that return to be massive, not like, we broke even on this little art house Syndicate reboot we made, or or whatever. So they still have the EA originals. They still do publish smaller games and facilitate smaller games, but that to me always felt like a pet project of someone internally, or something that they do for, like you said, Danny, like a brand image sort of thing of just like, we can't just be like, we need more headlines that aren't, hey, look at these FIFA loot boxes. Like you've got to put out a few more small things that make it seem like, hey, this is a company of people who care about games and all this other stuff. Like it's just not, it's not good for the brand image. So like the EA Originals thing especially felt like something like that to me. But having talked to people who've been a part of that part of the business, like those people do really care about games. It's not like it's not quite as soulless as you think it is. I'm sure higher up the more expensive the suits get, at some point, you trade some of that soul for some of that suit. But in the trenches, the people actually making these decisions, working on games, doing all this cool shit, like they do it because they like games.
And to me, that's what, I can't speak for Grub, but like what I heard when he said that, maybe what the emailer is sort of responding to, is the idea that perhaps now that is the narrative when you're trying to get something. If you're trying to get something, especially at EA greenlit at that level, it's kind of hard with the shadow of that game looking backwards at it now, that like it didn't make money, even though it might have not made money because, as the emailer said, it just wasn't a fantastic game, or a breakthrough type game like the first one. The first game was novel. The latter half of that game where you got guns was not wonderful either, but like it was so unique and had so much potential. So maybe that's the narrative, and it's just harder as a result of it. But
definitely. I have to imagine, like in my mind, and this is just my mind being my mind, like every time someone brought up Skate 4 for a good long time, someone tapped a sign that just said Mirror's Edge 2 on it and said like, get out of my office.
Remember?
And eventually that fight got won, or someone finally did the PowerPoint that made the numbers look better. And they're like, all right, we actually do need this game right now, don't we? But I don't know. We'll see. I want to know what Skate is. I want you to show me. Dustin in Los Angeles writes in and says, what food or snack has the greatest decline in quality as you eat it? Dustin brings up popcorn as being something that as you get further down, you end up with these partially popped kernels, and it's just going bad on you as you eat it. For me, it's probably pancakes.
I was just going to say, didn't we do pancakes is the ultimate. I mean, that graph, it just bottoms out after Pancake 1, doesn't it? It just...
Well, that's why you get a
waffles
stack
worse
and
then?
you just put them... Waffles are worse because they take up more space on a plate, and so it's hard to... Like, you want to power eat pancakes. If you're dedicated to eating a lot of pancakes, you can't fucking stop.
Yeah, and you shouldn't. Just to be clear, A, you should not. B, if you're in some sort of like awful situation where you're forced to finish pancakes,
Did you see that guy who lost the fantasy football thing a couple of weeks back?
Yes.
No.
He lost. He had to eat. What was it? 24 hours in a pancake in a diner eating pancakes. For every pancake he ate, it took off 1 hour.
Yeah, he had to spend 24. It was Waffle House, wasn't it? He had to spend 24 hours at a Waffle House.
Yeah.
But for every pancake he could eat, it shed 1 hour off his time, and he.
Or was it waffle?
Was it a waffle or was it? Yeah,
I can't
maybe
remember.
it was a waffle. But
so a maximum of 24 lessened
Or,
by each waffle. Okay.
Yeah.
That's
he
wow.
live tweeted it, and it sounded like
was this a prison sentence
nightmare.
Or
yeah.
Was this some sort of cruel torture? Yeah.
Well, so he placed last in his fantasy football league, so
right.
He must
so
pay the price.
They're like, we got to kill you, Ted. Sorry.
Yeah.
This is your punishment. You're gonna die now.
Yeah. Basically, I don't know. I love pancakes, but also then I get pancakes and I'm like, oh shit.
I love one pancake. Give me one pancake the size of a plate, and I'll finish that one off. But like there's a place I go to called Uncle Bill's. It's like a Jersey Shore, down in the Jersey Shore, like pancake place. The pornographic amount of butter that they like pop in between the thing, like they use butter in the way that you would use like lemon to like fucking spice up your water a little bit. It is like so obscenely fucked up. And every time I get it, I have to like scoop the butter off with like a spoon because there's that much of it on top.
Is this the only pancake place in Jersey? Like, can you go somewhere else?
You can't. It's just. I mean, it's good food. It's. Look, I don't have an explanation, a good one, of why I continue to, patronize this place, but I do. And yeah, I mean, after you get that number one pancake, you're like, all right, the rest of the meal's shot to shit now because I had the good one and get some egg yolk in there.
It's the IHOP problem of like everything comes with pancakes, and I like a variety when it comes to those sorts of meals. I want to get a toast of some kind. I want to get an omelet or an egg product of some kind. I want some pancakes over here, and then maybe if you got some hash browns or some meat or something, some kind of breakfast meats, like why not? But then you get the pancakes and you're like, let's fucking go. And for me, I have to eat pancakes as soon as they show up. They like, if you let them sit, they are going to go. So it's like, you got to start with the food that's going to do you the worst. And then, so I'm eating like a short stack of pancakes and they're like, all right, time to eat this massive omelet, I guess. And
now my hash browns.
Yeah. Well, usually the hash browns are the thing I punch out on. I'll like eat the crispiest bits of it and then be like, cool. All right, I'm good.
Got the good stuff.
But yeah. Let's see here. Rich in Northwest Wales. I'm sorry. This Welsh man. Pwiheli? I don't know, man.
Don't even ask me.
Yeah.
Huh?
No, it's where my European use is gone.
Yeah, I don't know. Someone from Cumbran. Anyway, I don't know. Anyway, Rich wants to know, how many of you own kettles? The fact most Americans don't own one comes as a huge surprise to us. Are any of you tea fans? And does Danny miss a good cuppa? And I got to say, when it comes to tea culture, and when I hear about British or Welsh or any kind of tea culture, something about the term cuppa just sends me into a blind rage where I'm just like, fuck you guys. Fuck tea. Cuppa. Yeah. Get the fuck out of here. No, a cup of what? Right? A cup of what? A cup of hot piss? Anyway.
No, I have a kettle. It's like we don't call it that. It's like a
it's like a teapot.
Teapot.
Yeah.
I'm a little teapot.
I'm not sure if a teapot's a kettle. Kettle. I would say kettle usually is a plugged into the wall water boiler. You fill it with water. You stick it on. It boils the water. Like, yes, if I was using a kettle to make tea, which I also would, I'd say I'm putting the kettle on because it's like a different thing. Or a teapot. Oh yeah, so maybe I am. I can't remember. It's been fucking so long. Here's the worst one I have. Do you remember Ty Root? Used to be my boss over at GameSpot.
Oh yeah.
He went to work at GameSpot UK. Jean-Luc, do you know this story when he went to work?
No, I don't.
He was at GameSpot UK for a couple of weeks, and he almost burnt down his fucking apartment because he took the kettle and put it on the oven.
Oh shit!
like a plastic
plugged-in thing.
Yeah, he just put it on the like the hob and like turned on the oven. I think it might have been an electric oven at least. And like, can you imagine like plastic? Yeah, so.
Oh wow!
And then he told us. That's why I like Ty, because he didn't hide it.
Right.
He's like shared
did
the
a dumb
story with us.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So don't do that.
We have an electric like a plug-in kettle thing, but I don't know if it broke. Or I know at one point it had a bunch of spiders in it.
Why?
I know. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Well, so we use it to fill up the tub for our daughter now. It's just like here's just the thing we can put water. We don't actually plug it in or use it. It's just like here's a receptacle for almost 2 liters of water that I can fill up this little plastic tub with. But yeah, I don't know, man. Tea.
I gotta get into tea. I do want to try and dabble into tea. Some a friend of the show sent me a big old variety pack of tea, and I've only dabbled with like 1 or 2. I'm nervous. I feel like tea is like this magic stuff that you don't know what's gonna happen when you drink it. Like I don't want to be like over caffeinated or like
bill it as all this is like this one's gonna be good for if your throat is sore, it's good for this, and it's just like weird herbal medicinal.
There's like
teas.
one tea. There's one tea, and it's called tea. And then there's people who have like they're into their Earl Greys or they're into their weird, or there's Japanese teas or there's Chinese teas. Like the English tea is just like builder's tea. It's just like either your Barry's or Lions or you're getting one of these blends. They're all the same, basically.
So you're saying we did this to tea?
It's like beer in days of yore was just Budweiser or whatever it was, but now beer, you can't say that's beer, or like if this beer is this and there's this hops and I like that stuff too. But like when it comes to tea, no, don't care about all that detail. There's one type of tea. When someone says in England, I'm putting kettle on, do you want some tea? You don't ask.
It just says plain on the bag.
Just tea. English breakfast tea, they probably call it over here. Just tea. Easy. Okay. Put some milk in, put some sugar in.
This one's orange spice flavor.
Yeah.
This one I
got
there's
so much fruit in this one.
It's crazy. Or whatever it is. I don't know.
She's the 6 spice girl. She didn't get in. She was Dutch. Spice.
Right.
Scattered pair.
David writes in and says, David from Halifax, Nova Scotia, with a question here. Where does the line get drawn between games being known by the studio that made them and being a lead developer's game? For example, I often hear people talking about Metal Gear as a Kojima game as if he made it all on his own, but a series like Call of Duty is instead talked about based on which team worked on it, like Treyarch or Infinity Ward. Does the former underestimate the involvement of an entire team, especially when they are in the hundreds of members, but happen to have a famous director in charge? Does the latter diminish the involvement of a director to lead a team? And why do you think this happens?
I mean, the people who know it doesn't, right?
It's marketing. It's marketing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Kojima is a profile. There's only a handful of people that Sid Meier.
Celebrity developer, yes.
Yeah, the celebrity developer that, by putting their
David
Archer
Jaffe.
McLean.
All the one, Archer
Rainbow,
Jeff Crammond.
Yeah. But yeah, it's yes, I think that it is often referred to it as like, this is this person's game. And it's obviously games are made by teams. I mean, some of the stories you hear about, even some of those Metal Gear games and his involvement compared to what the rest of the team did on those projects. You're like, oh, okay. He just kind of came in and on some parts of this and just kind of gave it one of these. And,
he's just like, not political enough.
Yeah. It's not weird enough. What if we had to unplug this controller and do that? All right, I gotta go.
That's all
Me
I
and Del
got.
Toro are kicking it. Ian Keeley got a thing. I think it's marketing. It's something that that just Kojima has become. Also, keep in mind, Kojima is also the name of the studio. So it's in this
Mythal
specific
Games
case.
And Kojima Productions.
That's it. Those are the two. Rare air.
I'm having a weird situation with we're doing a retrospective on Thief, and we've interviewed as many people as we kind of can or who want to be interviewed. But it's funny how like some of the people who kind of had bigger success after that are now the ones we retrospectively think of when it comes to Thief. And So I interviewed Warren Spector and Ken Levine last week, and like they were both like downplaying their involvement because they're like, yeah, like I was there for like the story, and Levine's case, or like Warren Spector was like kind of producing at the top, but he was gone before it even came out. But they're like, oh, just in the annals of history, we get brought up because when you go to like Wikipedia, it says Warren Spector made Thief and then Deus Ex or whatever, and then Thief 3. So it's funny, like it's even in those situations where like it's not necessarily the person at the top, you know, people like Doug Church, who are like massively influential, don't get talked about in the same way because they didn't lead a team, or they're not a cult of personality or something like that.
Yeah, it's and some of that is driven by the PR cycle. I think in a more modern context, some of that gets driven by the PR cycle of a game, like in terms of like who gets made available for interviews, and all that sort of stuff as well. Where, you know, it can be hard while the game is in development, I think, to talk to those people in the trenches. Like when you're retrospective, when you're you know, like after the fact, like, you know, you can line that sort of work up as you do. But like, if you were in the preview cycle end of a game and be like, I want to go talk to like the lead animator about what it was like to do this, they're like, I'm busy. This is on fire. I have to go. How did you get this number? Like, it's, you know.
Are there certain people who, like, when the call is put out, like 90% of people don't want to be talking to journalists or put on camera, so they'll, you know. But then you have a gregarious character, like, not to downplay his work, but like Cliffy B, for instance, level designer, game designer on loads of those games, but obviously as well somebody who did really well in front of camera, very self-confident. So of course he ended up becoming maybe more of a face than some of the other ones. You know? Yeah,
I mean, he had the Unreal logo on a rope chain. Like, he was ready for that.
Across the tips.
Like, yeah.
The whole yeah.
Oh, shit.
He did
Cliff it. Was living large. I was watching, I think it was like G4 awards from 04 or something like that. And I want to say it's like, no, it's well, I don't think it's like they won an award, and so it's like it's Cliff and I think Mark Rain and someone else.
Oh, so it's for like Gears or something, is it?
No, it's pre-Gears. This is
okay.
Like Unreal
this
Champion.
Is like it's like one of the Unreal games. So it wouldn't have been 04. Awesome. It was before that, I guess. And it's like Cliff is the one who can, like, is used to like talking to camera, and you're like, I get it, like, it, you know, like obviously, like he's just very natural at that stuff. He's a very talkative and fun guy to talk to. So of course, yeah, it's not a lot of the job doesn't come with camera skills. Right? I mean, there's a lot of people who, like you said, that are just like don't want to do that kind of stuff. Guillaume from Brussels in Belgium writes in and says, as you guys discussed a couple of years ago, following the release of Doom 2016, Bethesda decided to not send early copies of games to the games press. Now that Microsoft owns them, do you think this policy will change? That policy has already changed. That policy was like in and out. It was like 6 months or something like that.
Yeah, I don't even remember it.
Yeah. In fact,
will
I
they
think
talk
even
to
with
Kotaku? That's what I want to know.
Right. Yes. Exactly. Like, has enough time passed? Yeah. Will that blacklist be lifted? We will see. Yeah, that's actually the move. But yeah, that's nice. Yes, that was a weird and dumb move on their part at the time that they kind of got away from. Pretty soon after that. That did not last very long.
It was such a strange week because all the scuttlebutt and the like online and with us too was like, oh man, yeah, it is weird they're not sending us out early. And then on our end, I think Brad got it for you guys, and I think Peter Brown got it for us. And then Peter came in, he was like, oh no, this game's fucking amazing. And we were like, it was like whiplash.
Oh, right.
Like,
yeah,
oh, okay.
Right. That's
yes,
funny.
yeah. Doom was definitely a weird one. But yeah, but like it was a game before that. I'm trying to think what caused it. Like, what was the? I can't remember.
That's a great question.
Is the game that caused them to do this?
Was it Snap Map was the excuse they had for 2016 that they were worried that if people didn't play any of that stuff, I couldn't have been right.
No, because it wasn't like a reason. It wasn't like a per game reason. It was like a blanket policy that they were like, hey, we are no longer going to send copies out early for review, and then they tried to send out copies early for judging for the Game Awards. And it was like, I think it was like Dishonored 2 or something, maybe. And they were trying to send. Yes, they were trying to send out a copy of a game that they told us they would not send out for review, and it was like, we're going to send you this game, but you cannot use it for review. And I just said, don't send it. No, I'm not going to play weird games with like this. Like, if you want to be considered for these awards, just like send the stuff out. And it was just like that then created a separate weird meltdown. And then I don't know.
Big release before Doom was Fallout 4.
Okay, maybe it was Fallout 4. Because we definitely got Fallout 4 early, and they should have waited. I don't know if that had a day one patch or whatever, but like they sent me the PS4 version of Fallout 4, and that was it.
Yeah, it was rough.
And that was rough. Damn near broken, like single-digit frame rates in parts of that game. Just busted. So,
and that was the time where they were the most sort of burned by media leaks, because obviously so much of Fallout 4 also got leaked.
Of course, the leaks probably didn't help with that either. But yeah, maybe Doom and maybe like one other game maybe kind of got caught up in that.
Skyrim Special Edition, I remember that happened. It was like super weird because immediately, like I think they were like, we're not sending out copies, and then like a day or two later, I saw like a streamer who was like, they sent me an early copy a whole month early, and I was like,
I remember that.
What? Like, all right.
Yeah. I was like, they sent me a month early. Also, here's a list of things I can't say. It's one bullet point. It says anything bad. Anyway, this is awesome. We'll see. I wonder what will change on that front around the Bethesda Microsoft relationship. Been a weird road with Bethesda sometimes, but you know, it's way weirder for Kotaku, I'm sure. Dan from Brooklyn writes in with Ballmer facts.
Love it.
Steve Ballmer facts. Not related to him groping men at a basketball game.
That's the weirdest fucking GIF.
Did you see this animated GIF going around of like Ballmer like just jumping up? That was a basketball game, and he's like jumping up and he's like grabbing the pant legs of the guy next to him, and he's doing this crazy. And you're like, you look at it and you're like, is Ballmer in on it? Does he like think this is hilarious? Because it is. Also probably uncomfortable. Maybe those guys are not uncomfortable about it, and like
it's like he's patting them down in a weird way. It's like he wants to. Is he celebrating? It looks like he wants to hug them, but like pick their pockets and pat their legs down. It's very weird.
If you own a basketball team, do you own everyone inside the basketball court?
I don't know, but it just looks like to me normal human behavior.
Yeah,
it just looks like I mean, and Ballmer, I think there's, obviously there's decades of Ballmer being a little weird, not in that specific way maybe, but you're just like, this dude is a goofball, and I wonder if he knows that. Maybe he's just got an amazing sense of humor, and he's just like, no, check this shit out. And we'll just never know, but I don't know.
In 5 years, anyway. He'll refer back to it. It's like, remember my crazy fucking basketball game?
That fucking dance I did with that basketball dance? That shit was good, right? Anyway, this sheds some light on it. Dan from Brooklyn says, last episode, you talked about a listener who got better at Tetris stoned, and I would like to just make sure you know about the Ballmer peak. Steve Ballmer noticed he was better at coding slightly drunk and would often work hooked up to an IV of very low ABV mixture, so that he can maintain perfect blood alcohol levels for coding. Some studies have found evidence for this actually being true.
Wow.
Right?
That is taking it to like the Silicon Valley farce version of it. Like that's some Gavin Belson shit.
Yeah, that is
there.
like, it's like there's, and also the like fucking through line of that to microdosing.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like, we're microdosing LSD because that's how you do a startup now. And you're like, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? No, man, it makes everything better.
I want to know what the ABV was. That's pretty wild.
I mean, his developers thing has like the it's just pure cocaine energy. Like that. Like, what else is going on there? Like, allegedly.
Like, I don't know that he's like, I don't know. I don't immediately think that he is just some massive cokehead. I just think he's just got that energy, and he's just fucking weird, and he's a computer guy and is awkward in a way that computer guys can be, and
maybe manic sometimes, maybe a bit.
Sure.
Been there, sure.
I don't know.
He's still doing it though. He is.
Yeah.
he always was who he was, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson for all of us.
Right. Yeah.
Grab more legs.
Grab more legs.
It's not enough legs for this guy.
Yeah, we've got a couple of genre-related questions here. Joe in Nottingham has a question for the Genre Dicks. Are the following games fighting games?
This is you.
Okay, you don't want any part of this. All right.
Unless a sport comes up.
Boxing. Is boxing a fighting game?
Is Ready to Rumble yes, Fight Night no? What do you think?
Yeah, sure, I'll go with that. I
can see it. I can see the case for it, but arcade style boxing game and simulation style boxing game are perfectly acceptable genres that keeps them out of fighting. But
like
you're probably right that like a lot of the Ready to Rumble probably is, but like is Mike Tyson's Punch Out? Probably not.
Is Arms a fighting game?
No.
Okay.
It's not a boxing game though.
It's a virtual on like that behind the back mech perspective. But
is there a 2D like I'm thinking like International Karate or something? Is there a boxing game? Is IK a fighting game?
It's one hit knockdowns. It's trying to simulate a sport. Like I would not, but it does have moves and that was a really close one. And is Bushido Blade a fighting game? I mean, no, but Bushido Blade also has that kind of one hit thing that IK has.
Because IK and like Street Fighter 1 are not like, I feel like visually at least they're not that far. But then they have only diverged since then.
Right. Yeah. And Street Fighter 1 still has fireballs and life meters and all that stuff. Like it's pretty recognizable. Like it's all that sort of stuff. So, but I would say generally speaking, boxing, no. UFC games, I would also say no. But those games on the Dreamcast, back when UFC was truly lawless, there's the UFC game on the Dreamcast is like very close to a fighting game in terms of like a lot of it just feels like Tekken, like in terms of like one button per limb and those sorts of things. Like it's Tekken with a more elaborate grappling system in some ways.
Oh my god, I've never seen this. Look, it's Tito Ortiz on the front cover. Those are great games. Those are great games. Those are still, as far as I can, they may not represent the current sport at all, but that Dreamcast UFC game is the best UFC game, period. Like this is amazing.
Did a really great job with those things. And like Ice-T is unlockable in it, I believe. As is I think Bruce Buffer's in one of them.
It's got Frank Shamrock.
Wrestling games. Are wrestling games fighting games? Absolutely not.
No way.
Lethal League or Windjammers, are those fighting games? Not even a little bit. But they're competitive games. And so I understand why people at a fighting game tournament might want to play a bunch of Lethal League or Windjammers because they're both good games. I don't think King of the Monsters games are fighting games. And then The Bouncer's not a fighting game. Why would you even ask? This is... Come on now.
That's a David Cage game. That's a story game. That's why I watch it.
Exactly. I'm here for the story.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here. Grady in Austin. We'll make this our last question here. He wants to know about the 64 DD, the disk drive add-on for the N64. Says, listening to you guys talk about Nintendo's online policies and experience with Mario Maker and Game Builder Garage got me thinking of the DD. It was advertised as a machine that would allow people to create and share projects within games, such as Mario Paint, and incorporate online multiplayer in a way that did not exist on consoles at the time, to the point where Nintendo even built their own internet service. The 64 DD got delayed, launched, and was a massive flop. My questions are, what was the industry reaction to the 64 DD as it was announced and constantly delayed over the years? And why would Nintendo's incredibly ambitious, forward-thinking, and multiplayer-focused position during the DD years drastically change during the GameCube and later years? And you remember this DD stuff? It never came out in the US. It did come out in Japan. Yeah, it's.
I know the pictures of it, of you the N64 sitting on top of it, of like what looks like a lower level N64, like a 2-story.
Looks
but
cool.
I've never seen it or Yeah.
Yeah. It was a cool idea that, because they were talking like, hey, we're going to do, and I think they did this in Japan, like a F-Zero X expansion pack and stuff, or like a course creator for F-Zero X and different things like that. Like WarioWare actually got its start as like a hidden set of mini games contained in one of the 64 DD releases. And there are neat things about it, but like the reaction, because at the time this was like the fanboy reaction to it was like, game over, PlayStation, this is it, the one thing you had, some bigger storage space, we got that now, it's over. And you know, I don't know what the actual size of a blank 64 DD disc is, but it ain't a CD. So by the time it came out, it was like an afterthought. You know, it wasn't coming out in the US, but it wasn't like, you weren't like, oh man, I can't believe it's not coming out in the US. You were like, yeah, that probably shouldn't come out in the US. Right. Same way the Famicom disk system didn't come out in the US like this. You just looked at it and were like, yeah, man, I don't think we need Doshin the Giant over here that bad. And if you do want it over here, you can put it on a cartridge like everybody else.
Mario Artist Paint.
Yeah, they did a Mario Paint
stuff.
Yeah. That stuff's not, it is emulated somewhat well these days. It's a relatively recent phenomenon that you can play that stuff.
Right.
But a lot of it is very not English friendly. And yeah, then they have their online, they had an online service called RandNet.
Big fans of
all the Pauls.
Bioshock
Rand
fans.
Paul, Logan Paul.
Okay. Objectivism, is that what it is?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Would you kindly insert the disc into yeah, and the DD always just felt like a weird item that it never seemed like it was going anywhere. It never seemed like anything was happening with it. There was talk of like, oh, we're doing an update. Like there was an add-on for Zelda that was supposed to be part of that as well. And in Japan, maybe it was. I'd have to go look, but like basically that GameCube disc that came out that had like the Zelda Ocarina of Time Master Quest or whatever on it. I think that was originally DD.
Oh,
I think Majora's Mask may have originally been something they thought of as a DD project, but as it got delayed, maybe it ended up being just moved over to cartridge or something like that. But like, yeah, there's just not a lot of software on it. It did not take off particularly well in Japan. And yeah, our wiki page for the DD has like some pretty good unreleased games. Ultra Donkey Kong, which was eventually just Donkey Kong 64. So that's the thing, you know, you had games that they originally thought of as like DD games that for one reason or another just ended up coming out on cartridge. They just ended up being more expensive because they're like, oh, well, we had hoped we were going to have this much space to work with, so we need that much ROM to work with, and so I guess it's
that's
just going to be pricier or something. Yeah. I guess even Ocarina was originally thought of as a DD game, or partially for DD, but it's a weird device, and I don't own one. I think they look cool, but I wouldn't have anything to do with it, so I just never picked one up.
I have looked on eBay. They are starting at $2,000.
Oh wow!
They only sold 1,500 of them apparently.
Oh, it's really that low? Yeah, maybe it is that low. Shit, like it. Yeah, it did not do anything for them, for sure. That's okay. One more question here because he said that. Wes from Louisville says, a couple of years ago, I bought an old Game Boy Color for modding and paid what I thought was a reasonable $35 or $40. Last week, I started looking into perhaps getting a GBA to similarly mod, but the prices seem astronomical, starting at about $100 for an average old unit. Sure enough, when I looked at Game Boy Colors, they were up to about $60 for the absolute lowest. Am I crazy, or have retro consoles and handhelds actually increased like 50% in value in just a couple of years? What caused this?
Well,
I was also looking to buy a GBA, an SP, last week and saw how much they cost, and he's totally right. I was like, geez Louise, the software is not cheap either.
I'm guessing it's because there's been like a spike in like modding scenes for that. Like people like are buying like GBAs and like replacing the screens and getting like custom shells. There's things like the GBA consolizer that you can like, you know, modding kit, so you can like hook it up to a TV and You just need to like buy the guts of like, you know, the original GBA, and then, you know, you can like solder it yourself. So I assume that is probably a large reason why all that stuff
when I
just
saw
jumped up.
a lot of the ones I was buying did have like it's this version and it's this thing.
Oh, it's like the 01.
Yeah.
Like, you need like a specific version because that one's got the best, like for the screen. Yeah, totally.
Interesting.
Yeah, pandemic caused a lot of weird stuff around retro game prices, like hardware and software has just been weird, and everything keeps going up. Arcade machines, like the prices of that stuff are climbing to, like, I don't know if it's probably a multiple factors where you've got like people of a certain age getting to a point where they've got a little bit more spendable money. They're bored with the pandemic. They're like, yeah, no, I want a really good GBA. Like, I want a really good screen on it, whether they're buying pre-modded or they're modding them and all that sort of stuff. I think there's just a lot of different reasons why that stuff is going up. So, you know, as someone who has held on to a lot of old hardware, it's pretty crazy. You know, like I look at some stuff.
Jeff's retirement fund.
Yeah, no, nothing that good, but a good chunk of change for some of this crap. Got my Pokemon Center GBA ready to mod, baby. Bought it in Japan. It's real nice. Oh, I got a Pokemon Center Game Boy Color now that I think about it too. That's real nice. Anyway, sorry. I gotta price all that stuff out, see what it's worth. But yeah, the prices got super weird. That's going to do it for us here from the Giant Bombcast this week. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Jean-Luc, thanks for filling in. Jan's out on assignments.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on. Thanks for letting me be your generic store brand Jan. We have Jan at home.
Yeah. We'll see you again next week. I believe Jan will still be out. If you're willing to come back and hang out with us some more, we'd love to have you.
It is crazy doing something that's like 3 hours, because like you could never get away with doing anything on that at GameSpot. They'd be like, "What? Like, we don't have no one has time for that. Like, we could make like 3 videos in that time."
Yeah.
Sorry if we got you in trouble.
Well, we chunk out some clips of it and put those up separately too. We try to do the short stuff too. I don't know.
That's a good idea for a live show. You know, you have little segments and you break them out. Danny could host it.
Never work. Never work.
Yeah. Well, see, back when that show was called On the Spot, we didn't break out the segments. We just did it live every Thursday, and then it eventually made its way up onto the website as one big long thing. But you know, what are you gonna do? All right, everybody, that's gonna do it for us here. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon. Be sure to catch Born to Run episode 1 up on the site right now. Danny, Danny and Demon Souls and Timur making it happen.
Great work there, Danny. Love
Tuna
it.
Supreme, baby. We're here.
Can't
wait to kill some demons.
I wanted Uber Yeats.
Uber Yeats
I'm still printing up those T-shirts. So
Uber Yeats is strong, but I'm confident that when Timur gets back here, when he gets back to the States, that perhaps once we finish Demon's Souls, I don't know, we'll be able to maybe celebrate with a delicious tuna pizza. Apparently that is a Domino's UK specific pizza, so we're going to have to make our own tuna supreme.
Seems like a pizza crime. Okay.
Yeah.
That's definitely that's up there with Japanese pizza with mayonnaise on it. That's just a criminal act. I don't want any part of it. That's the end of this show. We'll see you next week. Have a good one. Bye.